It's a rite of passage. Every January, gearheads from around the world flock to Scottsdale, Arizona to kick off a new year of car gazing at the biggest, fattest car show on the planet, Barrett-Jackson. Cars as far as the eye can see, European exotics and American muscle, supercars and other stars, chrome and customs, hot rods and horsepower. This is the center of the collector car world. It's Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale, and it's coming to you live right now on FYI.
For car lovers, all roads lead to Arizona in January for the world's greatest collector car auction, where every day leads to Super Saturday. Today is that day at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. I'm Bob Varsha. Yesterday, the bidding took another much-anticipated leap as a docket filled with six-figure cars was topped by a 1969 Mustang Boss 429 that blew the roof off the arena when it hammered away at $400,000. But today is Super Saturday, and one look around me here in the salon tells you everything you need to know. It's time for the main event, the very best cars and the most amazing prices. Once again today, I'll be working with Mike Joy, Rick DeBrule, Tyler Hoover, and April Rose. And during this past week, each of us picked out one car that we thought epitomizes the spirit of Super Saturday. Take a look.
Let's talk about Super Saturday with one of the most spectacular supercars of all time, a 2018 Bugatti Chiron, 16 cylinders, 1,500 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. And just to keep you safe, they have limited the top speed in this thing to 261 miles an hour. All right, April, what have you got?
Not bad, Rick, but this is the queen of my heart. 1956 SL300 Gullwing, of course, with the iconic, beautiful, stunning Gullwing doors. Now, some would say this is the original supercar, which was born from racing with its tubular chassis and direct injection inline six. I mean, this is easily one of the most beautiful cars of all time. Bob, just try and top that.
Well, thanks, April. And I'll have you know that our colleague Mike Joy calls me the wine and cheese guy. And I say guilty on all counts. This is a Mercedes-Benz 540K from 1937. Now, in those days, you could have a car, buy a chassis, send it off to one of hundreds of coach builders, and they would create something original and likely to be stunning for your car. This particular Mercedes is in right-hand drive, which is weird because it was delivered originally in France. Go figure. Under the hood, that 5.4-liter, 8-cylinder engine has that K in the title, which means compressor. It's more powerful than the normally aspirated version. But this car is all about style. It's red now. It was originally black over silver. I like this a ton, from the rear wheel spats to the front end louvers. This is something special. Tyler, what have you got?
Well, Bob, how about a Lexus supercar, a 2012 LFA, one of 25 with the Nürburgring edition package, and only 7 of them were in orange. 562 horsepower V10 that sings all the way to 9,000 RPM. Wow. What do you have, Mike?
My high school dream car was a 67 Stingray convertible. Cars have come a long way since then, but look at this beautiful, just completed Jeff Hayes Custom. With its LS3 500-plus horsepower small block on an Art Morrison chassis, this gleaming champagne paint with the Ghost Stinger stripes and a linen leather interior. All my high school dreams and more in a brand new 67 Stingray. Now that's just a sampling of what's going to cross the block here on Super Saturday.
Just some amazing vehicles headed your way today. It's going to be a wild ride. But before we get to that, we have a very special announcement to bring you. This week, 47 amazing vehicles gathered here in Scottsdale to participate in the Barrett-Jackson Cup, which showcases the talent and craftsmanship of custom car and truck builders from across the country. Judges have narrowed this amazing collection of vehicles down to 5 finalists, and here they are. A 1968 Ford Mustang nicknamed Rampant, which was built by East Bay Muscle Cars. A 1960 Buick Invicta, built by Andy Leach at Cal Automotive Creations. A 1967 C10 Chevrolet pickup built by Z-Rods Customs and Fiber Forged Composites. A 1927 Ford Roadster that was built by the teams at Shadow Rods and Greening Auto Company. And finally, we have a 1959 Chevrolet Impala that was built by Troy Gudgel at BBT Fabrications. So there are your 5 finalists for the Barrett-Jackson Cup. Let's head up to the block now and Richter Brule to find out who our People's Choice and Ultimate Best of Show winners are.
All right, now the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to start with our very first award. You might have noticed up here on the block, we have not just 5 finalists, we have 6 cars. That's because we have a People's Choice Award. People were voting all week on which of the 47 finalists they thought impressed them. And the winner, well, it's this one right here. Take a look at it in all its beautiful purple. It's a 1961 Volvo PV544, built by Girl Gang Garage. Give them a big round of applause. Bogey Leitner won this. There were 165 women from around the country who took part in this build, and what makes it significant is underneath this old Volvo is a new S60 chassis, and it's a hybrid. So once again, Bogey Leitner, congratulations to her and the Girl Gang for building this and winning the People's Choice Award. Now for the moment we have all been waiting for, and I know these 5 finalists have been anxiously awaiting. It's time to reveal our ultimate Best of Show winner. And the winner for this year, the 2024 Barrett-Jackson Cup Ultimate Best in Show, is the Buick Invicta. Congratulations. Let's get our builders up here, get some pictures taken. Right here. Come step on over here. There we go. Walk on up. Let's talk about the importance of this. And Steve, talk about what a great car this is.
The car is incredible. The car is incredible. We've seen it as we walked through the first time, and you just couldn't resist. Absolutely incredible in every way. The wheels, so many thousands of components have been handmade. The car is spectacular. It's truly craftsmanship. That reminds you back in the day, the Duesenbergs, the Packards, the old coach-built cars. These are the coach builders of today, and this is the product of incredible technology and even more incredible talent. Absolutely amazing.
Step in there for the picture. Once again, big round of applause for our winner of the Barrett-Jackson Cup Ultimate Best in Show, the Buick Invicta, owned by George Eliakostas and built by Andy Leach of Cal Customs. So once again, it's the Best of Show for Barrett-Jackson Cup, presented by Castrol and supported by Meguiar's and TMI. What a day we've had so far. It's going to be even more spectacular. Let's get straight to Super Saturday.
Thank you all. And that's exactly what we'll do. Thank you, Rick. Congratulations to the winners of the Barrett-Jackson Cup and the People's Choice Award. When we come back, the action begins on the stage here at Westworld of Scottsdale and Barrett-Jackson. Stand by for Super Saturday. And welcome back to Super Saturday at Barrett-Jackson. Under the big top of the main auction hall, you can see the seats are filling up and the cars are rolling. Now on the block, the stars of the show, arguably this week, have been custom pickups. Here's a 72 Ford F100.
And I love the fact that under the hood, they've got a Coyote engine. You know, for a long time, it was the GM crate engines that were ruling the world. But now Ford with those Coyotes. If you want a Ford product, you can stick a crate engine in there.
$170,000 takes that beautiful truck home. That ties for our number 6 sale of the day. Earlier today, we had 3 $200,000 sales. We'll get to that as time goes by. Right now, here's lot 1293. We're supposed to be seeing, yes, the Mercury Cougar Super Cat from 1969.
And a very special one-of-one car. Carcraft Magazine built this car as a promotion for Coca-Cola. They enlisted famed drag racer Dino Don Nicholson to build this version of Dino's, that's the greatest racing name ever, okay, Dino Don, of his super stock Cougar, and it would do NHRA exhibition runs. This has, out of Don's shop, Lakewood traction bars, secret tweaks to the engine, Hurst competition shifter, Krager SS wheels. It's been beautifully lettered in gold leaf. It's been on the cover of a lot of magazines. One of one.
And ultimately, remember, this was a Coca-Cola promotion. Coca-Cola, after it had had its successful run on the drag strip, actually gave it away to one lucky person, and it was given away in September of 1969, given to somebody in Ohio. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep it, sell it. It was rediscovered in 1999 and restored to its original glory.
Well, it's no giveaway today. It's been bid to $100,000 already. A beautiful gold leaf lettering, a bit of this lace tablecloth style stenciling on the C-pillar. What a gorgeous car, and there's no other one like it.
I tell you what, we've also seen a number of great-looking Cougars crossing the block this particular auction here in Scottsdale. I mean, it didn't matter if it was XR7s, convertibles, coupes. These have been done to a really nice level, and it's nice seeing the Cougars out, you know, on the auction block in the corporate cousin of the Mustang and doing well. It's nice to see them restored to a high level.
Hammer drops at $110,000 on that beautiful drag racing show car. Now let's join Tyler Hoover.
Here in the staging lanes, you have every generation of Corvette well represented. There's the Birth there, 1953, but what I'm sitting in is a beautiful custom 1958 Corvette, just really popping in the sun with this sky blue paint. You can see I'm very comfortable inside because they modify the interiors on these custom Corvettes to have the seats lower so a tall guy like me can fit inside, clear the steering wheel with no problems. And you see everything is classic on the inside, but modern gauges put in the stock positions. It's also riding nice and low on a custom chassis. You can see the oversized wheels also that look stock, but under the hood is an LS3 V8. Easily done you would have found in 1958 with a fuel-injected 4-speed one of these. So a huge improvement. Beautiful custom Corvette.
No question about that. And I was wondering how you could sit in it, Tyler. You're about my height. I tried to drive one for a feature here at Barrett-Jackson, and I couldn't. It hit me in the steering wheel, hit me in the knees. Incredible. This is lot 1293. We're closing the bidding on a 2023 Chevy Corvette Z06 Anniversary Coupe, and away it goes at $175,000. Oh, come on, sir. That deserves a smile. Out the door it goes. Hammer price plus 10% buyer's premium and applicable taxes and fees. Goes wherever he wants it. Here's 1294, a 1954 Chevy 3100 custom pickup.
Well, this is a resto mod. Of course, it's been lowered. The grill bars, the bumpers have been chromed. LED headlights. This has a Ride Tech, a front suspension, Borla mufflers, and a 6-speed manual transmission behind the GM Performance LT4 engine.
Yeah, and just the point we were making a moment ago where they're putting Ford Gen 2, Gen 3 Coyote engines into the Ford products. Obviously, the GM crate engines that have kind of been ruling the aftermarket world for the last decade or so. It's nice to see that going in the proper motor here. And once again, they got a 6-speed transmission. Everything on the outside of this has been done. This is a nice custom.
This one wears a roll pan instead of a rear bumper for more of a hot rod look. A little bit of cutout there for the quad exhaust tips.
It looks great, and it's bringing great money. Current bid closing in on $200,000.
Look at those huge forged alloy wheels. Those look to be 22s in the back, perhaps 20s up front. Gleaming candy apple paint, Hammer.
You called it, Rick. Market is white hot for custom pickup trucks, $200,000, and that ties for the third highest sale of the day, but not enough to make our top 10 of the overall auction. Here's April Rose.
Hey, Bob, I'm out in the pre-staging lanes, and it is getting hot out here. Check this out, 1960 Coupe de Ville Custom. Now, I don't need to mention it's a custom probably because you can see all the details on here have been modified. I absolutely love the long, low, sleek body, one-off billet wheels right there, stainless all the way down, very pretty wrap-around windshield. Oh, we're going pillar, no pillar right here, very open look. We're still going about over 19 feet long to these gorgeous fins on the back. Look at how they gleam in this Arizona sun. And it's almost like it has its own grill in the back. This thing is massive. Now it's got a supercharged Cadillac CTS V6.2 556 horsepower engine. I love how they left it a true Cadillac. Willwood disc brakes all around. And check it out inside. There's so much room. Fully custom Dakota digital gauges, full upgraded sound system, and just stunning red leather with chrome accents and that sweet alligator detailed center console, leather wrapped wheel. I mean, if you weren't cool in high school, you need to buy this and you're instantly the one everyone wants to hang out with. I love this ride, Bob.
I do too, April. You'll be leading every 4th of July parade in your hometown, no matter where you live. We go back to the block now for lot 1294.1, a 34 Ford custom pickup called Sirius Black.
And for good reason. Everything on this is either black or chrome.
7,000 takes it. Of course, the name is a play on words on one of the Harry Potter novel characters. Here's a look at our air schedule for the day here, Super Saturday in Scottsdale. We're on FYI from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll switch over to the History Channel from 6 p.m. to midnight, and we'll cram in as many of these amazing and beautiful cars as we can. So join us for this entire day. The weather's not great where you are. Come join us. Coming up after the break, 2023 Chevy Corvette Z06, 5.5 V8 engine, 670 horsepower, the works. Stand by.
The all-new line of Barrett-Jackson merchandise and apparel is now available. From road rallies to the office, there are many stylish options for the car lover. Available year-round or online at shopbarrettjackson.com.
We don't want you to miss a thing here at Barrett-Jackson, so moments ago, check out this 1955 Chevy Bel Air Custom Coupe, fuel-injected 383 cubic inch stroker engine, all of the Go Fast goodies, and it went all the way to $300,000. That's our new high sale of the day and number 2 of the entire auction. Now, here's a 1966 RCR Ford GT40 Mark II race car recreation, guys.
Well, and what's cool about this is a recreation, not of a Ken Miles car, a Dan Gurney car, or a Bruce McLaren car. This is the car that was driven by Mark Donohue in the Le Mans race in 1966.
This is an incredible car. It's all over YouTube. Spectacular build. Represents an amazing part of automotive history. Don't miss it. Absolutely incredible build in every way.
530. A faithful replica of serial number 1032, one of the 8 Ford GTs that raced at Le Mans in 1966 in these original colors. Now, why did Ford call their GT the GT40? Because the car is 40 inches tall to the top of the roof. And that means you park a Galaxy station wagon next to it, it's just going to dwarf this.
All right, congratulations. You won for $125,000.
125,000 takes it, and I can tell all over the country right now, guys are going for a yardstick to see just how much 40 inches would feel like when you climbed in. Of course, it wasn't enough for Dan Gurney. They had to put a bubble in the roof. Here's lot 1296.1, a 1970 Porsche 911 wide-body custom.
Only recently do we see Restomod Porsche 911s. Companies like Singer have done a great job with these, and so now the aftermarket has gotten fully involved. This one has turbo fenders, front and rear, very deep front fascia, added driving lights here, and a big GT2 RS style wing, along with a ducktail spoiler from an RSR.
When we came on the air, we had the winners of the Barrett-Jackson Cup, the ultimate best in show. Well, as we might have mentioned, some of the cars that crossed the block as part of that were actually, these are custom cars, some are actually being sold. So this has the Barrett-Jackson Cup sticker right here, meaning that this car competed in the Barrett-Jackson Cup last week, and now it's being sold here at Barrett-Jackson. So it's kind of an interesting twofer. A car that was in the competition to potentially win, now being sold on the auction block. 8 of those competition cars for the Cup, well, they're up here on the auction block this week.
And did we happen to mention this one is LS3 powered? Not a lot of Porsche left under that skin, is there?
Well, they're just, kind of going future imagining. Remember, they have ultimately went to water-cooled rear-engine cars for Porsche. They were just thinking, what would it have been like in 1970?
A nice round $100,000 to that gentleman up in the luxury lounge. Well done. Now coming in stage left is lot 1297. It's a 1977 Mercedes-Benz Unimog U1300 SE custom pickup, formerly owned by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's funny how certain cars connect to you in certain ways. The first time I ever heard about a Unimog, well, it wasn't, on the street or in a car magazine. I was a kid, and I bought a Matchbox car that was a Unimog. I remember thinking, this is really cool, this really unique, way cab-forward design. And, because I was a kid, I used to take them apart and repaint them and have fun with them. But that's where the Unimog first came into my consciousness.
Yes, these were heavy industrial vehicles in Europe. Built for use off-road, but on-road capable. They have a 6.4-liter inline turbo 6 diesel-fueled engine with a manual transmission. Unimog specialist Merex Mertec in Gaggenau, Germany, did this restoration and upfit for the Governator.
And really, this was all about farm machinery, the ability to go places and do things that you couldn't do in a traditional vehicle. And after World War II, they started building these in big form. And then I think in 1951, Mercedes-Benz took over and began to fully own and build these.
So where do you drive this? Well, if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, anywhere you want.
I got news for you. I think even if you're not Arnold Schwarzenegger, you can pretty much drive this thing anywhere you want. The styling over time has changed. In the beginning, it was a little more rounded in the front hood, but still pretty cool.
$200,000, and you could drive it anywhere but the drive-through. Okay, now, so where does our lovely assistant put the sold sticker on this beauty?
A lot more than 40 inches from the ground, Bob.
Yeah. They're going to back it out. She probably needs a running start to get up there to the windshield. So. Here's lot 1297.1, a 67 Chevy Nova SS Custom Coupe.
Well, the Nova is the upscale version of the Chevy 2, Chevrolet's front-engine rear-drive compact car, which they introduced to challenge the Ford Falcon. It did get a restyle, and here in 1967, it's probably its most pleasing form. Now, if you were going stoplight drag racing on Saturday nights, not that we ever did that, you'd rather have a Nova than, say, a Chevelle or a full-size Chevrolet, because this thing is lighter, but it has a lot of the same engines available. available. Get the power to the ground and get gone.
And you could sneak up on people. They weren't expecting a big engine, unless it had the SS badges, but assuming you put a big engine in something that looked pretty plain, boy, you could not only have all the power, the lightness, but you could sneak up on them and they would not know what you were coming up with. And of course, this one has a big 6.2-liter LS V8 engine, 4-wheel disc brakes, and once again, black work all the way around in terms of that paint on the bumper.
So when we say LS, that is an engine family of General Motors, who had the small block beginning 1955 and the big block V8 a decade later. And they have all been replaced by the LS family, which you'll find these engines in everything from Silverado pickups to Corvettes, in all manners of tune and horsepower, most of them electronic fuel injected, so they're efficient, they're powerful, and that's what today's hot rodders are using.
Yeah, this one has been what they call mini tub. Tubbing is where you actually cut away the wheel wells on the backside to put bigger tires into it. And in this case, they've done a mild chop where they've gotten, slightly larger tires on the rear.
And another $100,000 sale, a very cool Chevy Nova SS Custom. Another break coming up, and then more Dream Rides. Stick and stay. Welcome back to the Valley of the Sun, which is certainly sunny today. This is Westworld of Scottsdale, where the temperatures are expected to reach the low 70s on a perfect day for Super Saturday here at the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. There are the cars lining up to head into the building. Inside the building is the world-famous Barrett-Jackson auction block, and we're looking at a 69 Corvette 427 435 L89.
Yeah, second year for the C3, this Mako Shark body style. Roy Seiner, who's the expert for Corvettes here at Barrett-Jackson, was just up on the block talking about how this is the real deal. 435 horsepower with that L89 engine.
This is the number. This may well be a world record for this car.
Top quality. Only brings us the best. Documented by the best, most well-known Corvette expert in the world. You cannot go wrong, folks. Here's an opportunity to buy one of the finest in the world. We were hoping this car was going to bring closer to twice that amount. You can't replace it.
You got 70.
Unmodified car. Look at the Goodyear Polyglass tires. Now, these were belted bias ply tires, much better handling than the bias ply tires that preceded them. Certainly the radials are an upgrade over these, but they weren't available back then.
And this one has been judged. I mean, it's a top flight winner, Bloomington Gold certified. It's won a muscle car and Corvette National Concours Gold. So not only does it have Roy Seiner signing off on it, it's got the entire Corvette judging community signing off on it.
435 horsepower, 4-speed car.
They're closing in on $300,000 slowly but surely. We talked yesterday about the fact that for a long time, these Gen 3s, they languished a little bit. Not anymore.
$290,000, the hammer price. Now let's go to Tyler.
Aloha from the staging lanes. What we have behind me started life as a very special truck. 1970 short bed, regular cab pickup truck. And this one was ordered from the factory in this color, surf green. So the builder decided to customize it and continue on that surfer theme, and you can see it in the wood trim here. It would have been fall wood actually in the Cheyenne package, but they put little tiki motif going all the way across the side. This one's been lifted 2.5 inches, has oversized tires, so you can look easily down below and see the, we'll go inside first. You can see in the door panel, there's more of that tiki motif and the beautiful leather interior, custom gauges. And since this thing has been lifted, you can see the undercarriage really well on this thing. This is where the details on these custom builds really can just go nuts. That powder-coated frame, you can see the four-wheel drive components, all shiny as well, just incredible. And under the hood, beautiful as well. It looks like a vintage engine thanks to being painted in Hugger orange and those old script valve covers, but it is a modern LS3. So mahalo to the builder for bringing this thing. It is gorgeous.
And Mahala back at you, Tyler. We'll look for that. Right now, we're watching lot 1299, a 72 Ford Bronco Custom.
Boy, full custom build, right, beginning with the grill and the nose carried all the way through. Fuel-injected engine, and we're told $300,000 in receipts for this build.
And I don't think there's an original part left on this thing.
Boy, that one went straight to 150,000, and that's where it was hammered away. And off it goes. The new owner has, I believe it's 72 hours to take their vehicle off the property. I bet it takes a lot less than that. Here's lot 1299.1, a 69 Camaro Z28.
It's said that these are rare in black in 1969, but we've seen several of them this week come across the block at Barrett-Jackson. The 302 cubic inch small block, that size chosen because the SCCA limit to race in the Trans Am Series was 5 liters or 305. All the original smog equipment that we took off and threw away on day 2 with these cars is all present. A replica tar top GM battery. And this one from MS Classic Cars in Seekonk, Mass, restored to a very high standard as new.
Well, let's see what it looks like underneath in terms of restoration with our chassis cam. There we have that 302 cubic inch engine made into the 4-speed transmission. Working our way back, everything looked pristine. We're going to find our way to the 12-inch rear end. Boy, just as nice underneath as it is up above.
You know, it wasn't but a couple of years ago that these were $80,000 to $100,000 cars when fully restored, but we're at double that, Bob.
Yes, $170,000 takes it home. And that couple will enjoy it as the gentleman ticks off another item in his catalog. Now, coming up later on, how about this? Absolutely shaved, minimalist looking, with 857 supercharged horsepower under the hood of this Chevy 3100 Custom. Back at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Once again, we don't want you to miss the big hitters, and here's one, a 1942 Dodge Power Wagon Custom with a 6.2-liter supercharged Hellcat engine, custom suspension, a whole lot more, including fabricated rear doors where there weren't any on the original. That's a resto mod, original lines, but modern internals, and it went for $350,000. That's our new top sale of the day. Now on stage, the 71 Ford Bronco Custom.
Well, resto mods and customs rule the day here at Barrett-Jackson, and it doesn't matter whether it's a massive power wagon or a, well, let's say sort of a standard Bronco. If it's been customized, if it's got a Coyote engine, if it's got modern running components, that is exactly what the buyers want and are willing to pay for. Of course, this is pretty classic. It's got that Coyote engine, 10-speed automatic transmission, and 4-wheel drive.
It's at a mild 2.5-inch lift. Note the Battleship Gray is offset by the lava orange leather in the inside, and no full weather equipment, just a little, is it a bikini top or a bimini top? I've kind of heard it both ways, depending on how expensive a boat you buy.
I was going to say, depends on which coast you're on. Out west, we call it a bikini top. You can call it a bimini top. This is made by Decked Out Custom, which was one of the builders who had a couple of the cars that were competing in the Barrett-Jackson Cup last week and did not win this week, but they had some pretty impressive builds. We're seeing more and more of the second generation Ford Broncos because these first generations, hard to find donor cars.
And it sells at $151,000. The trend continues for custom SUVs and pickup trucks. Here comes lot 1301.1 in bright red and 67 Chevelle Custom.
Now, we talked earlier about LS swaps. This is not one. This retains the big block engine that it could have been born with, but this one has been treated to a set of aluminum heads. It's been punched out to 540 cubic inches. It's a blueprint engine, 3-speed automatic transmission. That is Phytec fuel injection, making this a much more efficient and more powerful engine than it could have been born with.
Look at all the custom touches inside the engine compartment. They've shaved the firewall. The fenders are nice and flat. And then, of course, up front, we're not seeing any chrome on this. Look how they've grayed all the grill, the bumper. So it's a beautiful red paint job. And even all of the chrome that would have been around the window surround, every place else, has been taken off on this 1967.
The glass panel dash is brand new, but it has analog style gauges as original. And this sort of neodyme satin metal finish is on all of what was previously chrome or stainless trim.
1967, the last year for this body style. The next year it would the front would stay relatively close, but it would have that Coke bottle styling on the back, more of a fastback look that would then lead into 68, 69, and of course the big car that we see crossing the block this week, all of the 1970 Chevelles.
And it hammers away at 125,000, and she cannot believe it. Better believe it. Let's go to April.
Oh, these are so cool. They stand out. 1970 Superbird, only year that they made them. Really cool, all with aerodynamics in mind. They only built about 2,000 of them. You got the steel nose cone cutting through the air. There's actually cutouts underneath to feed that matching numbers 440. And of course, check out the massive wing in the back. It's super tall, which acts for downforce, but also sideways stability, you know, kind of like a plane's rudder. I mean, it's incredibly strong, and it's tied to the frame. It really could hold over 3 Mike Joys just sitting on it, no problem. Now inside it looks stock, like a Roadrunner with a bench seat, very comfortable, easy to drive. I mean, this is the true ugly duckling that's now a beautiful swan, Bob.
April, I just turned to Mike Joy when you said that 3 Mike Joy's comment, and his jaw still hasn't returned to its original position.
It's only a flesh
from
wound,
Mike
Bob.
later on. Here's a peek into the Maguire staging lanes. This is where the cars come in order to go into the building under the supervision of the Barrett-Jackson staff, and the Maguire's team is there to give them a final fluff and buff before they go in under the hot lights on the Barrett-Jackson stage. Right now, Rick is eyeballing a 52 Chevy 3100 custom pickup.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where to begin. It's so beautifully done from front to back, but I do love what they've done with the bed. You know, not uncommon to have wood in the bed, but they've given it this silver treatment because when you look at the rest of this truck, it matches. I also love the way they've done the custom hinges down here for this to rotate on. Well, there's nothing that they haven't touched on this to make it just a little bit better, or in this case, an awful lot better than it would have been born with.
$155,000. Not sure who was happier there. Great truck, great price. 150, 155 seems to be the average for those here at Barrett-Jackson this year. Here comes a 55 Chevy Bel Air Custom.
Well, the pattern of the two-tone is factory. The colors are not. This one wears teal on its hood, front fenders, and most of the doors, and silver from there on back. You could order that two-tone treatment on a Bel Air. You could not order this LS3 Wagner 427 V8 engine with LSXR fuel injection, nor the Stage 4 automatic transmission. This is an Art Morrison GT Sport chassis. That means it's going to be maybe not as robust as the original 55 Chevy chassis, but it's computer designed. It's going to be built to a much higher standard and more precise mounting points than the original factory job, many of which found their way quickly to racetracks and are no longer available for restoration.
Yeah, when we talk about Art Morrison or Roadster Shop or any of the aftermarket chassis manufacturers, what they do is they make specific chassis for specific cars. So in this case, the Tri-5 Chevys, there's a very specific chassis that they're building for it. And as you mentioned, you can get it done in different styles and to different extents. You know, you can have a bare chassis, you can have complete suspension front and rear. It really boils down to what do you want to build.
And you can see all of those on display right outside the auction tent here at Barrett-Jackson. This one has been treated to a vintage air conditioning system and a Retrotech digital dash.
And to your point, I don't think this was the way it would have looked coming out of the factory. Who would have thought a teal and silver? But, you know, these traditionally would have been white, beige on the backside, but it looks beautiful.
You know, it's hard to believe that this shape, which has endured so well, and these Tri-5 Chevys have always been blue chip collectibles, it's hard to believe this car is nearly 70 years old.
And it sure didn't sell for $195,000 when it was brand new. There it is. Now our next car is a 69 Chevelle Copo 427. It's time for a few Hagerty fast facts. How about the fact that 86,307 SS Chevelles were built in total in 1969, but of that total, only 323 were Copo cars, C-O-P-O, Central Office Production Order. Somebody wanted a specific list of goodies. They were willing to pay for them, and they got them. Let's see what it goes for.
So how do you get a Copo car? You have to know a Chevy dealer that has a direct pipeline to factory performance, and that's what happened here. We've all heard of Tasca Ford in East Providence, Rhode Island, and all of their high-performance Mustangs. Well, their big competitor in the market was Scuncio Chevrolet in Greenville, Rhode Island, and that's where this Copo 427 Chevelle was born, out of Scuncio's, very famous in the Northeast among Chevy high-performance folks.
Yeah, and just because it's performance, don't confuse it with an SS, right? It's not wearing any SS badges, although it is all about performance. You look at the VIN number, it's got a 13637 in it, meaning it was born a Malibu two-door sport coupe. No shortage of those made, but once again, because you know somebody and you had to, it's like, you know, having the back door and you have to knock twice and ask for Frank, you knew how to order exactly what you were looking for with this Central Office Production Order.
Gravel's Auto Body, Waterbury, Connecticut, did this restoration in the factory correct Fathom green paint over parchment interior, and a period correct 427 is under the hood, made into a Muncie 4-speed.
$112,000, and that's worth a smooch. And you didn't even have to know somebody on the inside. We'll take a break and return to Scottsdale. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. There's a look at the crowd of car fans milling around out there just outside the staging lanes. Absolutely gorgeous day to look at cars, and that's inside the prep zone. Now, we've been talking all week about Fantasy Bid, brought to you by Dodge. The winner at the end of all the 2024 Barrett-Jackson auctions will take home a 2024 Dodge Hornet. Here's a look at the standings so far. After two cars, Mike M. off to a brief lead. You still have time to join, even if you miss a car or two. You'll find all the rules at promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com. Take a shot. What do you got to lose? You may win something cool. Here is a 2019 Corvette ZR1 Custom Hennessy HPE 1000.
Well, customized in a lot of ways. Most importantly, you see this badge here? 1,000 horsepower.
And $167,000 sends it to its new home.
Now, we are told that Barrett-Jackson has just crossed the $100 million sales threshold. Here we are on, day 5 of the auction. Day 4 on our air at FYI on the History Channel. And we've got a long way to go, so we'll see what the final number is, but that's certainly a healthy start. Now, we're still working on that Hennessy. We're at 160. The auctioneer's trying to solve a snag, and okay. That gentleman stayed in at 160, and he gets the car at all 1,000 horsepower. Okay, we'll carry on to lot 1305, a 1953 Corvette 235-150 convertible.
Hard to believe how revolutionary this car was when it debuted in this year, 1953. All 300 built were all polo white like this. Harley Earl styled the grille. These are stone guards over the headlights, as found on a lot of European sports cars. And yes, these first 2 years of Corvettes were all powered by Chevrolet's Blue Flame 6-cylinder engine with triple carburetors and a 2-speed Power Glide automatic transmission.
Well, what people do realize and forget to understand is that in 1953, 150 horsepower out of a 6-cylinder engine, that was performance. That was what would compare with a Jaguar or something coming out of Europe. By the way, they made 300 of these. You could only get 2 options. Your 2 options were either an AM radio or a heater. And in reality, every single one of those came with them.
What you could not get on these early Corvettes were, say, roll-up windows and other creature comforts that would come along later. But you saw one of these on the road. It was narrower, lower, sleeker than anything else on the street. A showstopper.
Man, $200,000. It's probably a world record for dollars per cylinder. That's still just a classic look. Congratulations to the new owner. Now here comes lot 1305.1, a 69 AMX custom coupe called Banachek. And by the way, this is one of our Dodge Fantasy big cars. So if you're still hung up about what you think it'll sell for, hurry. But now you can take a good close look.
An original George Barris custom. What did George Barris do? Well, he built the first Batmobile for TV, and he built this on a stock AMX that has been lowered and highly modified for the TV series Banachek. Who's that, George Papard? Yeah.
George Papard. This was not the car that George Papard used, for example, to show like some of the other cars we've seen across the block. This was used in a particular episode. I think it was a car that was stolen or something, and of course, Banachek probably had to figure it out. But boy, I tell you, this is a great build, and those folks who love the AMX have to love this. It's been beautifully done. And of course, not just the treatment in the back, but that grille. It's almost like it's a stylized what AMC would have done if they could have gotten crazy on it. And, this has everything you want. I mean, it was involved in a TV show. You've got the records of that. And of course, George Barris, when it comes to custom royalty from the 1960s, he's the man. And of course, remember the day the Batmobile sold here on the auction block? Not quite that big a rock star in this, but it's pretty cool.
Almost looks like a bedliner finish on these wings. A lot of things that George did look great from 10 or 20 feet. For example, on the Sonny and Cher Mustangs, he used ice cube trays on the hood with the grills from overhead fluorescent lights. Hey, whatever worked.
And to your point, this one looks good right up close. I mean, there aren't many details on here that I would lack. It's got great pinstriping. It's got the great paintwork right through here. Nice touches everywhere.
130,000 takes it, and everyone here at Barrett-Jackson recalls George Barris fondly. He brought a number of his creations here, including that Batmobile that Mike mentioned, which really went to the moon. What was that one, like 4 million?
4.5 million? I remember saying, Bob, as it rolled across the stage to the TV theme, kings, rock stars, presidents, Batmobile. Nothing else get that kind of reception.
Absolutely. The house was rocking. Here's 1306, a 66 Pontiac GTO custom EV convertible.
Oh, yeah, those two letters you said in the middle of that name, EV. This is an electric conversion on a 1966 Pontiac GTO. What they've done is put a Tesla 50 kilowatt motor underneath on the transmission mounts. The frame was reinforced, but they're using the original chassis.
So let's show it to you on our chassis cam. Don't expect to see anything original under here other than the front suspension and crossmember are original there. A lot of wiring instead of exhaust pipes, okay? There's your power unit. Very, very clean underneath.
So check out the dashboard. Look at this cool video display with those analog style looking gauges. They've done a nice job of taking an analog look, which of course would have been home to the 1966 Pontiac GTO, and updating it. You know, that I think we're going to see more and more of these.
I think we are. 130,000 takes it to wherever that man wants it. Now let's join Tyler once again.
It's hard to believe that the remake of Gone in 60 Seconds, starring Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie, was released almost 25 years ago. I know I saw it in theaters multiple times and then wore out the VHS tapes, but even all this time later, the Eleanor builds are just as popular. Now, they made about a dozen cars for the film, most of them destroyed in that crazy chase scene, about 3 functional ones. This one was not one of those cars. It is a tribute edition, an official tribute edition, done very well. This design was pinned by Chip Foose, and they put the body kit on, and you can see in the back glass they even added the nitrous. In the interior, you can see the Go Baby Go button as well with the 4-speed manual transmission. And I love this one because it is so screen accurate. Even under the hood, even though this wasn't born a GT500, thankfully they didn't destroy any real Shelbys in the film. This car started life as a 67 fastback, but it's not a Shelby, but it has the 428 Cobra motor, what you would have found in a 67 Shelby GT500, and I really like that.
Time for another break. Lot 1306.1 is at $135,000. We'll be back to Scottsdale. Welcome back to the world's greatest car show and collector car auction, Barrett Jackson. Here's what the last 3 cars did going across the block. All 6-figure cars. And that 67 Corvette, lot 1307, went for $250,000. The numbers just keep climbing. And this one's already at 260 grand. This is a 67 Corvette Custom.
All right, so if you were watching all week, earlier in the week, you saw Corvettes cross the block not selling for $100,000, not selling for $200,000. So what's the difference? Well, let's talk about customs. It really comes down to the build. Who built it? How they built it? What engine components they put on? Did they put on a new chassis? How much custom work? And of course, the finish, the paint. What color have they done? You know, there are certain colors these days that are popping more than others. And quite frankly, these silvers, these grays, these are bringing value.
Here is the car card, and I counted 20 different aftermarket manufacturers that have provided the parts that went into this build. I mean, the industry that supports just Corvettes, not just collector cars in general, is broad and very successful and growing.
An extra bid. $5 grand more was all it took for that gentleman to pick up that beautiful Corvette. Need a bow. Well deserved. Don't forget, Barrett-Jackson.com has all the information you could possibly need about the Barrett Jackson auctions here in Scottsdale and elsewhere. So go to Barrett-Jackson.com.
At the very least, get yourself a t-shirt. There's a new logo. New merchandise of all kinds all the time. Barrett-Jackson.com. Now we're on a rocket ride. 140,000, 50, 60, you get the idea. 170,000 on this Corvette. Take it away, guys.
Well, watch the hood come up on those lifts and see not the engine it was born with underneath. Beautiful big 20 or 22-inch wheels, frost blue over silver, ivory interior, and again another Corvette that the aftermarket has provided most all of the parts on this beautiful build.
And going back to the point of why one car sells more than another, you know, there's certain things. For example, 1958. So something about the 58 body style with those chrome tusks on the backside, people just love. You put an LS engine up front. We talked earlier about where that comes from. But there just seems to be a magic package. Now, the problem is you can put an LS engine in some other kind of car, and it's not going to bring that kind of money. But if it's the right type of car, the right type of paint and finish like we've got right here, the right type of interior, boy, it just all adds together into exactly what the market wants right now. Like this one has C7 Corvette suspension, and that's another good point. You know, they're using modern Corvette components underneath, so it's got that genealogy, that bloodline that follows through from what a 1958 Corvette was born with to what the modern Corvettes are using today.
Oh, that's John Staluppi. I watched Steve Davis waving at him from the block, and you saw the bidder assistant asking the auctioneer to wait for another bid, but it wasn't there. And those guys bought this incredible Corvette. Wow. It's quite a minuet. The bidder assistant, the auctioneer. When the competition gets hot, it is so much fun to watch. Here's a 67 Chevy 2 Nova Custom.
Well, another 67 Nova, highly reimagined. This one's called Nightmare. That's a Motown, all aluminum block end heads, small block engine at 427 cubic inches. Holley fuel injection engine management system. TCI Pro Touring independent front suspension and 4-link rear RideTech Air Ride, E-Stop e-brakes, Willwood disc brakes, Dakota digital dash, and on and on and on.
Well, just a moment ago, one of the Barrett-Jackson staff members walked by with a very thick binder. It is filled with receipts. It's filled with information about the build. And going back to what brings money, it's all those things. Once again, it's the right combination with the car, and then it's showing how you did what you did, giving it enough break-in miles so somebody can trust it when they're out on the road. And they want it pretty fresh.
$150,000. We've got another break coming up, but not before we show you a very cool car. Yesterday, a 69 Mustang Boss 429 went for $400,000. You're going to see this 1970 version, 429 V8 and all, when we come back. Welcome back. There's a handy Barrett-Jackson sign in one of the showcase pavilions, where the cars are firing up and heading for the staging lanes before entering the auction hall. That's where we are with a 2019 Corvette ZR1 Custom Coupe.
Well, you look at this, you go, wait a minute, Rapid Blue, that color was new with the C8 Corvette. This is from the Brian Frank collection. It came from the factory in black, and this is an Avery Dennison wrap in current Corvette Rapid Blue.
Yeah, and they're labeling this as a custom for more reasons than one. I mean, obviously, they've managed to change the look from the outside, but also they've totally reworked that engine underneath.
And that gentleman, congratulated by the bidder assistant, takes it for $147,000. Beautiful shade of blue. Now here's lot 1310 if you're scoring at home. A 1970 Ford Mach 1 Twister Special.
Well, the Twister was a special regional build for Western Ford dealers, and it's on the rear quarter panel there. You couldn't get these all across the country, only in the Kansas City dealer service zone.
Well, we hear a lot about the GTCS, the California Special from 1968. It has a lot of attention. Now, that was just an appearance package. What was different about the Twister, there were only 96 of these made, and what they did was they started with a Mach 1, and then they added the drag pack onto it. So this wasn't just an appearance package for 1970 for the Twister edition. This was a full-on performance package. They only made 96 of them, and this was the only color you could get it in.
Grabber Orange has the 428 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8, a $376 option. No extra charge for the Twister. Emblems, $42.75 out the door at your Kansas City Ford dealer.
We know about the California Specials, the Twisters, and then there was also one other, which was the High Country Special, which was made out of Colorado, more mountainous. But and they started doing those before the GTCS, the California Specials, came out.
I'm not sure if being a Twister Special adds value to a 428 Mach 1, but it certainly does add rarity. Might not sell for more money, but it will sell sooner because of the limited number built.
And once again, I mean, it's in great shape. It's one of only 96 built. It does have performance, and it's got that little extra flair with the name.
$42.75 out the door back in the day. Well, $250,000 now. Congratulations, sir. Wow. Let's go to April.
Hey, Bob, I'm with this 1950 Chevy 3100 Custom. And when I say custom, there is a lot going on. We got this front bumper from a 68 Camaro. Now, this is a stock grille. The headlights have been Frenched in, and these are LEDs. Very beautiful custom color. I can't pronounce it. I'm sure Bob or Mike, you're going to be able to do that for me. They stretched out these running boards to make them wider. Very cool knock-off wheels with those yellow line tires all the way back. I love this fuel filler right there. I mean, this is just such a neat truck. Now, it's got a GM 6.2 LS3 with Magnuson supercharger, 4-speed automatic, 9-inch rear end with 373 gears, and sits on a TCI chassis. Now take a peek inside. The leather has been beautifully done. Very nice matching wheel, matching gauges, and of course the ever important cup holders right in the center. I mean, this is one fun truck to take in the Arizona desert. And you know what? It doesn't matter if it gets dirty because it is that exact color, easy to keep clean. I like it. It's very practical. Bob?
What, April, you can't pronounce Streamline Cafe au lait? How do you like your coffee? With milk? Thanks, April. This is lot 1310.1, 1969 Chevy K5 Blazer Custom.
Yeah, it's been customized with all the usual stuff. Better engine, it's got a big lift. I love the bead lock tires. One of the subtle things they've done with this is in the previous year, 1968, they had a 50th anniversary edition. So in this one, what they've done is kind of pretended it's a 50th anniversary edition. Look how they've put that up on the dashboard right there. And check out that interior. How is that fabric? They perfectly match this color, the gold.
$170,000 right there in that same window with all of these amazing custom SUVs we've seen this week. And there are more to come, I am sure. Now here comes, well, another one. Lot 1311 is a 71 Bronco Sport Custom.
There are 62 Broncos in this year's Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale sale. That's twice as many as there are Chevy Blazers. Now, in the sales race in the showroom, things were different. But, of course, the prices were nowhere near what we're seeing here. 32-valve Ford Camry V8. Wow. I mean, just everything is so modern here except the shape. It's the one you remember from 1971 and these first-gen Broncos.
And when you were talking about the number of Blazers, that doesn't count the number of Jimmys, no doubt, that goes along with that. And you think about it, it's interesting. Back when this was a new vehicle, the only way you could get a Bronco or anything like it in the Ford world was from Ford. There was no Lincoln Mercury equivalent of it, whereas in the Chevrolet world, you could either get a Chevy Blazer or a GMC Jimmy.
So this fresh build has a Coyote 5-liter V8 and what is described as the family roll cage, meaning main hoop, rear hoop, front hoop, down bars, but no crossbars, no diagonals, because you need to have room for the family in the back seat. Okay.
It's got a Dana 20 transfer case, 9-inch rear end in the back, and of course that Coyote 5-liter engine up front.
A very fresh build. I know people that have ordered these. They've waited over a year to have them built and paid right around what someone will drive this one home for here at Barrett-Jackson.
Yeah, there's no shortage of parts. We've talked about that to build these, but find someone to build it and build it the way you want it and get in line to get it done. That's what takes time. That's why these are bringing good money here.
Specifically, $165,000. Very cool car. Got another break coming up, but plenty more still to come in our 10 hours of live coverage on FYI and the History Channel. Stay with us. We'll be back to Scottsdale. The party is fully underway at about 1:35 local time. That's Mountain Time here in Scottsdale, Arizona, home of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. That big brown building is the main auction hall, housing thousands of bidders and interested fans. For a very reasonable general admission ticket, you can come and do everything except sit down on the bidder floor there and bid on cars. It's a great car guide thing to do. Here is a 61 Corvette custom convertible.
Well, this one's been highly resto-modded. LS3 V8, all different suspension, 4L65E, automatic, electronic engine management. Now, this was kind of a sub-body style of the C1, and the difference from the preceding year is around here in the back. It's these big fender humps with the peak and the cam tail rear with the recessed tail lights, 2 on each side, that would be seen in the Stingray that would come along for 1963. So make the 61 and 62 C1 Corvettes just kind of a nice preview, kind of a half preview of what was to come.
Some people just call it the ducktail out back. You know, we talk about the fact that rarity adds to value, but for some reason when it comes to Corvette, that's not the case. Here at Barrett-Jackson this week, remember, we've got a record number of cars, more than 2,000, everyone crossing the block at Mill Reserve. Of those 2,000 cars, more than 180 are Corvettes. And what year do you want? 67. There's 14 1958s. Now this one's got the LS3 6.2-liter engine. It's got an automatic transmission, an L92 aluminum pistons, forged steel I-beam rods. I mean, they've gone through this from top to bottom. And, you know, we talk about the fact that it's just the way you want it because it's done to perfection.
And it hammers away at $162,000 as we go to Tyler.
I'm with lot 1320.1, a 2007 Ferrari F430 Spider. And with the Blueprint engine cam, let's take a look under the hood or in the back of this thing. Ferraris, the 430, 4.3 liters, 500 horsepower of mid-engine greatness. And you can see it's mounted really deep in the engine bay. The red intakes go all the way down to the V8 mounted as low as possible. And this was the first Ferrari built for incredible reliability. No more belt services on these. And this one beautiful condition. You can see that Rosa Corsa paint, a design continuation of the Ferrari 360, refined really well. And this one showing only 2,000 miles, a bit over 2,000 miles. Now, it has been modified a little bit. You see the beautiful Daytona seats in the interior. In between that, a lovely gated shifter. Now, they did make it from the factory with a gated shifter. Some cars, it's extremely rare, so it's getting more and more popular to do gated manual conversions to get rid of the paddle shifters, and you have an incredible driving experience right here.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Thank you, Tyler. Here's a car we previewed earlier, the 2023 Corvette Z06 Coupe.
So why are these nearly brand new cars here at Barrett-Jackson? Because you can't get one. If you did, you'd have to order it and wait for it. 670 horsepower, carbon fiber aero package, Z07, even higher performance package. This one gets to ludicrous speed.
Insanity Plus. Yeah, it does it with that flat plane crank engine. You know, traditionally we always have the offsets, which meant it couldn't rev quite as high. With this thing, you can rev all the way up to 8,500, and it's that ability to have a different sound too from the engine.
$178,000. Sinister looking thing. Corvette has really hit a home run with this new generation Corvettes. Here's lot 1314, 1970 Chevy K10 custom pickup.
We talk about the C10s and the K10s ruling the world this week, and they have. There's just something about that 1967 to 1972 body style that has struck a chord. Just before we went on the air, there was a 1963 Chevy that crossed the block, and it's just a little rougher body style. But this one, it's so sleek, so smooth, and it's a perfect palette to do anything you want with. For example, this one where they put in this 525 horsepower, 6.2-liter engine, and of course they've jacked it up underneath, big four-wheel drive because it is a K.
Let me jump in there. I need to remind people, Rick, that this is one of the fantasy bid cars, so you're running out of time. Get your bid in.
Love these GM two-tones of the 1970s. A little faux wood trim going on here. That is factory. And just a very restful looking mint green and bright Summit white.
Yeah, they've nicknamed this truck High Tide because it's getting through the water, but I can't imagine anybody would ever actually take it out into the water if they were going to do that. You could ford plenty of streams, but boy, this build is just too beautiful to do it with right now. Maybe someday.
Coilovers at the front, remote reservoir Fox shocks all the way around, though it retains its leaf spring rear suspension.
Okay, now I know you people who are playing the fantasy bid game are screaming at your TV saying, Bob, the bids were cut off yesterday. I can't bid on the car now. Well, that's right. I didn't know. I'm not allowed to play the game, so I don't know the rules.
All right, check out that seat inside. You know, they've kept a bench seat, but they've gone to a much more modern, more contoured bench seat. So another example of how they've taken every step. And remember I called it High Tide? Well, there's the name right there. And you can see that same tiki look is in the applique on the back of the seat right there.
We're not done, are we? 177,000. $178,000 takes it. Was that your fantasy bid? Congratulations, sir. Now here comes lot 1314.1, a 71 K5 Blazer custom.
This is also a Hogan-built machine, similar to the one that just crossed the block. The C10 is a two-wheel drive half-ton pickup, K10 a four-wheel drive. So the Blazer got the K5 designation in four-wheel drive. Now, this is an LS, but with earlier Chevy small block valve covers, and the way you tell that they faked this is look at the exhaust header pipes, the primary pipes. If this was a small block, the two center pipes would be right together. But on an LS, they're equally spaced. You can't miss the Whipple supercharger sitting on top of that LS.
And what I really love about this one is it's had 1,200 miles since it was built. So it's fully worked in, everything you'd exactly love to see.
All right, what we've got to see is the headliner. I mean, this is Rolls-Royce Starlight stuff right here. Aren't LEDs great?
We saw a Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith roll across the block yesterday, had that exact interior treatment. Boy, we can get up and look inside. Also, look at this, we'll call it another family roll cage, a full roll cage that goes from front to back. Big sound back here. They've done a great job of protecting everybody in this thing.
The leather seats with cloth inserts. Don't believe those are factory, though I have seen similar. And the contrast stitching in silver. Center console. What a nice, luxurious, brand new $300,000 Blazer.
Yeah, the only question is, where do we go? I mean, the sky's the limit, or in this case, the twinkling skies are the limit.
The Triple Century, $300,000. Wow. So much for that window I was talking about. SUVs and trucks. Okay. Here's one that April reviewed for us earlier. Lot 1315 is a 1960 Caddy Coupe de Ville custom hardtop.
Long and low and definitely not slow, because this one has been upgraded. Here's Steve Davis.
You look down the sides of this thing straight. That's a lot of real estate to make straight with black paint. It's beautiful red interior. Shane, let's sell it. Let's do it, Steve.
It's a 1960. It has a modern supercharged Cadillac V-Series. A V8 in it. Sick Chops of Cave Creek, Arizona have built this. Now, the body shape and the greenhouse looks very factory, but I'm seeing what looks to be, a 4 to 6 inch chop in the roof. Low and long and sleek.
Is it possible to call a Cadillac from this era subtle? Maybe a little bit, but only because, remember, this is the 1960. It follows the 1959 with those iconic 1959 tail lights that would have been right here. But the length on this thing, this is like 225 inches long. Think about this. A modern Escalade, just a standard Escalade, is like 212 inches long. This is nearly a foot longer with just 2 doors and seating for 4 people. Of course, you got trunk space for, everything you could possibly bring home from Costco.
A modern padded dash, a full-length center console, seating for 4, shaved of door handles and all exterior ornamentation, except the stainless steel denoting the fins and the lower body side. Huge hoops, front and rear. This is just gorgeous.
And all done in black paint, and as we've talked about, black shows every flaw. If there's a problem down the side of this thing, you're going to see it with that black paint. And as I look down the sides, I don't see any problems at all. It's a beautiful, beautiful build.
That roof line looks like a Chevy bubble top.
Remember, we were still in the jet and space age concept. That's what all these taillights look like. The one from 1959 really looked like an exhaust flame, but now they were a little more subtle.
Shane Ratliff brings down the hammer at $175,000. Don't make that mistake. Congratulations, sir. That is quite a piece. Okay. We gave you a brief preview earlier on of this 56 Chevy 3100 custom pickup called Redefine, red.
Here's Steve Davis.
Best in the auction, don't miss it.
All right.
Just what a beautiful, simple shape this is. The front of this truck evokes the 1955 Chevrolet, the Tri-5 that stood Detroit on its ear. And here is the big swap underneath, an LSA engine, Holley electronic fuel injection Whipple supercharger, a combined 850 horsepower. Now, like all pickups of its era, this has a rectangular bed with external fenders and steps. Earlier this weekend, we had the Cameo version of this with the fiberglass add-on fenders for style, but the function of the bed was still the same. Now, this bed doesn't function like new because it's been raised. The bed floor has been raised to accommodate that brand new rear suspension.
And last year, if you had been at the Barrett-Jackson auction, you would have seen this as one of the 5 finalists for the Barrett-Jackson Cup. So this was just built a year ago and shown and almost made the winner as the Barrett-Jackson Cup Ultimate Best in Show.
Look at the curvature of the bed sign here and this little belt line bump out, kind of a rear spoiler looking treatment here, kind of hides in plain sight. Just another great tribute to the customizer.
And look at the faux wood that they've created here. And when Steve refers to the big window, this is what he's talking about, the big window that goes across the back. For a long time, they didn't think they needed big windows, but think how complicated this is to have this curved glass at the back of there. And then, of course, we've got the curved glass at the front as well. I mean, just a few years earlier, they were doing split windows in pickup trucks.
Well, the reason for that big window had nothing to do with style. The small rear window, just big enough for the rear view mirror, for the driver to see through the rear view mirror, created a huge blind spot in the right rear.
175,000 and John Staluppi. The salute picks it up. Another break coming up. That gives you an idea of how frantic the action is going to continue to be this Super Saturday at Barrett-Jackson. Stand by for more from Scottsdale. Welcome back. There's a look down on the massive half-mile-long tent complex and the 7 tents in the background, all of which are stuffed with some of the world's most beautiful, historic, classic cars here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. This is lot 1316.1, closing the bidding on a 66 Chevy 2 Nova SS Custom.
This is the third 66 and 7 Nova SS we've had. They just kept getting more intricate in the build, more subtle in the presentation, and more beautiful. This one's been shaved of all of its badging. Beautiful white over red.
Who would have guessed in 1966 that a Nova would sell for $300,000?
There's a lot of head shaking going on up here on the block, but the craftsmanship is what sold that car.
Right, you can't deny it. 300 large. Well, we promised some pretty excited bidding and some very determined bidders as we welcome a 67 Corvette Custom Coupe.
Wearing its big block hood with the Stinger. Now, normally, Chevrolet would not have put a ghost Stinger. There would be a contrast between the color of the Stinger and the color of the body, but it would represent the color of the interior most often, and in this case, it is red. Here's another LS swap, masquerading as the big block 427 that this could have been born with.
Well, what's interesting about this one, it also has a brand new chassis underneath. It's basically what they've done is taken a C4 style Corvette chassis, built it on a jig and put it underneath. So whereas a lot of people are simply taking an aftermarket company and putting it on, this one purpose built for this car, made by a customizer out of British Columbia, Springfield Motorsports in Peachland.
So let's show you that C4 chassis from the early 1990s on this 1967 Corvette as it rolls by, and that much more modern rear suspension than this would have been born with. Beautiful.
And they took that engine, the 454 cubic inch engine, and they punched it out to 496 cubic inches, which is another example of somebody who's saying, I'm not just going to take a crank motor and drop it in, I'm going to take a motor and do work on it.
And that work results in a $180,000 price tag at the Hammer. Congratulations to the new owner. Now here's a familiar sight at every Barrett-Jackson auction. It's a 67 Ford Mustang Eleanor Tribute Edition.
Well, everybody knows the movie and everybody loves the car, and a lot of people want to buy one. So authorized tribute cars have been produced over the years, and this is one of them. Licensed with the paperwork from Toby Halicki's widow. He was the fellow who created the original Gone in 60 Seconds. It is pepper gray, it is black inside, and has all of the correct movie touches.
There were a total of 12 that were built for that 2000 movie, the remake of Gone in 60 Seconds. Only 3 of them were actually functioning cars. They were basically 1967s that were dolled up.
A movie poster, signed photographs of the stars, and most importantly, that certificate of authenticity that this is a licensed Eleanor replica.
DuPont pepper gray, the color, and boy, it just goes back to the fact that we've seen so many grays, whether it's a metal flake, DuPont pepper gray like this, or even destroyer gray that we've seen in some of the other cars that are coming across, battleship grays. This is absolutely the color that's bringing big money here at Barrett-Jackson these days.
Cast wine glass wheels, the side pipes fared into the rockers. So much metallic in that pepper gray paint, and somewhere a 66 T-Bird is missing its taillights.
And $130,000 sends it to its new home. Not sure exactly who got it, but good luck to them. Gone in 60 seconds or thereabout. Well, Super Saturday is just getting started here at Scottsdale, and already the prices are pressuring upwards. And that's just a little taste of what's still to come. So stick around. The heavy metal is yet to arrive. We're here at Barrett-Jackson, the world's greatest collector car auctions from Westworld in Scottsdale. I'm Bob Varsha with Mike Joy, Rick DeBrule, Tyler Hoover, and April Rose. Right now on the auction block, we have a 1968 Chevy C10 custom pickup.
Yeah, I gotta love the nickname on this one. It's called Apocalypse, built by Backyard Specialties in Santa Ana, California. And of course, like so many of them, it's got a brand new chassis underneath, in this case, a Roadster shop spec chassis, and a brand new 454 cubic inch engine under the hood that right now is pumping out 627 horsepower, and it's mated to a 4-speed transmission. You've got coilover suspension. You know, one of the things to point out in this being a 1968 spec truck versus a 1967 is the rear window. 1967 would have had a smaller rear window. Now, realizing you could do anything you want in the custom world, but in 1968 they decided, you know what, a little too small, we're going to go with bigger windows in these C10 pickup trucks.
Everything blacked out on this, not a trace of chrome or stainless trim anywhere. Even the wood in the bed is blacked out.
And $150,000 takes it. Team effort. Have fun with it, folks. Now let's join April Rose.
Hey, Bob, I'm in the pre-staging lanes right now with this beautiful 1966 Corvette. Now, someone hit all the options on this, but also a very rare big tank option. You can see right through the back window there. Usually it's all carpeted up, but you can see it in all its glory. Now, this is one of only 66 built with a 36.5-gallon fuel tank, which loads right under the back window. Now, it's also optioned with the Kelsey Hayes knockoff wheels and the side pipe exhaust, so you can really hear that 427 big block V8, which was the first year it was offered. Beautiful restoration back to its original factory Milano red saddle tan interior. I mean, drive this for the week and race it on the weekend, Bob.
Thanks, April. The big tank Corvette. Pure fuel stops. Speaking of Corvettes, now on the block is a 58 custom convertible.
Well, just said hi to John Bradley up here on the block, who with Patrick Pogrant and his wife Jill just had a great family restoration business here in Phoenix and turned out incredible six-figure customs. Look at the clear acrylic on the hood masquerading for the washboard fake louvers. The candy apple red paint is a mile deep. So is the gold in the coves. That ivory leather interior. This must be the most beautiful 58 I've seen.
Patrick Pogrant passed away, John. However, now building cars in Glendale, not far from the original shop that Patrick was doing. And this is a perfect example. And once again, the question is, what is the most desirable? You know, there's 14 1958 Corvettes of one form or another crossing the block this week.
This one rides on a GT Sport chassis by Morrison, chrome 4-link suspension, strange 9-inch Positraction rear end. The hammer falls.
$160,000. Thank you very much, sir. Barrett Jackson, thanks you very much. And out the door it goes. And rolling up, a 79 Chevy K5 Blazer custom pickup truck known as Lolita, just like the book by Nabokov.
Well, this one's been given a Rally Sport headlight treatment that I've never seen on this generation pickup. These headlight doors move to expose the headlamps, and there's very little to see here under the hood. Everything kind of nicely hidden in plain sight, and a matte version of the gloss finish outside under hood.
And this is another vehicle crossing the block this week here at Barrett-Jackson that was selected to participate in the Barrett-Jackson Cup. So it was one of the cars that was judged. And remember, just because you want to be in the Barrett-Jackson Cup doesn't mean you get chosen. They only selected 47.
I bet this looks just as pretty underneath as it does on top. As it rolls across our chassis cam, all of that matte finish, that matte ivory and silver is replicated underneath. Big 3-inch exhaust tubes, full frame. They have even painted the rear end housing to match this deep dark cherry. Well, you want to look at it from the upside, Rick, instead of at the bottom. There you go.
I was going to say, you don't need a chassis cam to check out the suspension on this thing, because all you have to do is lift this bed right here. Fully painted, fully finished. You can see all the rear suspension that's been set up for this thing. You can inspect it very easily. You don't have to crawl underneath it all. Boy, so many details that go from the front to the back on this. For example, inside the cab, the wood finishing that they've got is actually designed to match the bed.
$170,000. And there was much joy. Coming up, a 2019 Porsche 911 GT2 RS, previously owned by IndyCar race winner Paul Tracy, who is here. 3-point later, twin turbo, the works. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Our 1974 Ford Bronco Custom SUV just sold for $250,000. Not that long ago, these vehicles, meaning earlier in the day, these vehicles were going for about $170,000. This is Super Saturday. Everything goes up. Here's a Ferrari that Tyler Hoover showed us earlier. It's a 430 Spider from 2007.
Well, it's pretty cool, 430, but it also has just 2,274 miles. but I love looking at the front of this particular Ferrari. When Frank Stevenson was doing the design, he took what were a couple of small inlets on the front and expanded them out. Why did he do that? Because he said he wanted to go back and play to an homage to the 1961 Ferrari 156 that Phil Hill drove to the World Championship in 1961, the first American to win a championship. They call that the shark nose car. Interestingly, none of those cars exist today. They were all torn apart for parts by Ferrari to build other things. But I like how they've taken that design of the 1961 Ferrari and built it into 2007.
Now the intakes on the rear quarter panels recall the Ferrari 250 and 275 prototypes that raced at Le Mans. So there's a lot of homage going on here. What is not a tribute is the glass panel over the Ferrari 4-cam V8 and the Challenge grille. And it has a new owner.
At $200,000 bid. Sold sticker goes on, and we are going to Tyler.
Here's a cool piece of Shelby history right here. 1968 GT500 KR for King of the Road. And the KRs had a whole host of upgrades, including the 428 engine. And you can see all this rubber around the air cleaner right here. And that was to make the hood a functional ram air. I'll close it now, and you can see air running through there and directly into the engine. Now this one's finished in lime gold. A lot of people repaint away from this color. I personally love it. You can see the 428 Cobra Jet badge and the KR stripes going down the side. Those Shelby wheels and the interior beautifully restored as well. Roll bar added with a 3-point harness just to add a little bit of a racing touch to this thing. And when you go to the back, has those beautiful 68 taillights. Now, the body on this thing looks absolutely flawless, and the paint. There's a reason for that, and it may ding this one a little bit. It did have its entire body replaced due to rust or damage. At some point, this car was driven and used hard, and so they chose to put a new body on it. But it is a real deal Shelby KR.
And that name carries value, no question about it. We see it year after year here at Barrett-Jackson. Right now, coming down the ramp, a 71 Chevy Blazer custom SUV.
Oh, beautifully done. This thing is so slammed, I didn't think it was going to make it off the block without high centering.
All right, why is Craig Jackson hanging around this car? Well, very often when Craig wants to bid on a car, what he'll do is he'll leave his perch where the auctioneers are and come down front and start bidding. Well, right now, I think he's just kind of hanging out and taking a look at it. But, you know, with these customs, you have your choice. You can slam them to the ground or you can jack them up. Whichever way you'd prefer to go, that is bringing money. And this one is an interesting build because of the black and white. We'll call it the panda look. You know, black, they've taken all the chrome trim out here. They've made the window so it's flush, more of a modern connection to the window as opposed to having the chrome strips that would have surrounded it.
$182,000. Because Craig, if he was bidding, didn't want it that much. But though a couple did, and they got it. Congratulations. Now we'll move on to lot 1321.1, a 55 Chevy Nomad custom wagon.
Yeah, beautifully done. In fact, this took 2 years to build. It was done by Denny's Bowtie Restoration. Originally, this body was built in Van Nuys. They had the Fisher Body Plant over in Van Nuys, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. And once upon a time, we used to talk about it. You did not want to customize something that was valuable. You know, this Nomad was a valuable body. Now, customizing doesn't hurt the value. In fact, it's gaining. Look at the price. We're right now bid at $250,000. That color, by the way, gray stone metallic. They've got 4 coats of that. And then they've got 5 coats of House of Color clear seal. Boy, it's just beautifully done. When you talk to a customizer, people who work on cars, you know, they'll talk about all the various parts that it takes to go into it, the engine, the chassis, all the reworking has to happen. But they always say, when you really get down to it, probably half of your time is going to go into the body. It's getting the body right, getting the paint right. There's a massive amount of time that it takes to pull it off. And you can see they've done a beautiful job at this point. It's interesting. This thing shot to $250,000, and that's where it stayed.
To an internet bidder. That's what that gentleman pumping his fist is doing, watching the internet bids. That's a way that you could Barrett Jackson. A break coming up, and then we're back to Scottsdale. Welcome back to Barrett Jackson Scottsdale. The hits keep coming on the auction block. Right now we're going to Mike Joy.
Well, Craig Jackson, we have worked and waited all week. No, we've worked and waited a year for today, and the numbers, even early on, are just jaw-dropping.
They are. We didn't want to take any time last night to recap Friday. That was incredible. Friday yesterday felt like a Saturday. Today, the way we've come out of the gate is absolutely amazing. We had the Cup, our first thing. When we go on History Channel, you're going to see the prices just climb. Stay tuned. We're going to make history today.
Steve, how do you convince the owners of these high, 6- and 7-figure cars to bring them here to sell at no reserve?
And that's the magic, Mike. Every car sells. We don't know who's going to own it. We don't know how much it's going to bring. And they also ask the question, how do they bring them at no reserve, and why do you have so many of this and so many of that? There's no one on the planet not very long ago that would think we'd be selling $300,000 pickups on Friday. Broncos, Blazers, the SUVs, it's like a grocery. You're stocking the shelves. You know what's popular. You've got to have a certain thing for certain people. You know these people want more, those people want less, so you have more on the shelf. It's an art, it's a science, but it all collides in Barrett Jackson, and no reserve is the magic. Every car sells, and people know it, and they want to bid.
Yeah, the bid stops here, and earlier today we crossed through $100 million in sales for this week.
Yeah, it's been incredible. The bidders, we passed last night 6,158 bidders. So right now we're probably at 6,300 registered bidders. Unheard of. Last year was a record at 5,700. So there's a lot of demand out there. Great cars. The Supercar Salon today is going to be absolutely incredible. The Don Williams collection coming up. Fabulous cars from my mentor and our former partner. Stay tuned, don't go away. It's going to get better and better all day.
Thank you both.
And thank you, Mike. 400,000. Your ears do not deceive you. This is the 1970 Boss 429 Mustang that we showed you for a break earlier. Now we're at 420 and still climbing.
Yeah, we saw one of these sell yesterday for $400,000. This one's grabber blue. Boy, it got everybody's attention.
Top sale of the day and the auction. You know, Steve Davis, whom we just heard from, puts the catalog together. And the joke used to be Steve would start with a blank sheet of paper and a number 2 pencil. And when the pencil got down to the nub, he knew he was getting to the end. So things have changed since then. It's got to be a 2 or 3 nub auction, given the size of the docket. So I saw Steve today. I said, okay, Steve, is this a 2 or 3 pencil docket? He showed me a picture on his phone of 7 number 2 pencil nubs. That's how big and complex putting this docket together has been. Now, here's a car April showed us earlier, a 1970 Plymouth Superbird.
That's a tradition here. We have to honk the horn at least once, you know.
Well, it's a Roadrunner Superbird. Technically, the Superbird was the outgrowth of the Plymouth Roadrunner. Richard Petty defected to Ford in 1969 because Dodge was building the similar car, the Daytona, and Plymouth said, Richard, you're winning all the races. We're not going to build you a special car. So Richard went to Ford. In August of that year, the head of Plymouth came to Level Cross, North Carolina by himself. No assistance, no entourage. Richard, what'll it take to get you back? He said, give me a nose and a wing. And they did. This is the result. Richard Petty and Pete Hamilton won 3 of the 4 super speedway races in 1970 with a car much like this. It was Petty blue, not B5 blue. This is just gorgeous.
And it's one of 3 Superbirds that are crossing the block here at Barrett-Jackson this week. And while it looks almost identical to a Dodge Charger Daytona, it's not. The wing angle on the front, the nose angle on the front is different. The wing angle on the back is different. Plymouth decided they were going to do it their own way, and as a result, well, they had it just slightly different. But they did do something that they weren't able to do with the Dodge version. They were able to win Daytona.
$260,000. Another online bidder picks a winner. Wow. If you don't believe what you're seeing, go to Barrett-Jackson.com and check out the prices on these cars. I mean, it's just going to be red hot all day. We can't say it enough. Barrett-Jackson.com. Check it out.
You know, Bob, Pete Hamilton was the Roger Maris of NASCAR racing. He had one spectacular season racing as a teammate to Petty. As Rick said, he won the Daytona 500. He won both races at Talladega. But then he ended up with a great career as a short track driver and chassis builder. But it was that one shining season that made his mark.
This is a 1950 Chevy 3100 custom pickup.
Well, let's go back to what flavor do you want? I mean, we've seen so many of the C10s, the 1967 through the 72 pickups rolling across the block, but there's also plenty of the earlier range. This is the beginning of the post-World War era. You know, after 1949, they started coming up with that new style, because up until that point, they had all been pre-war styles that were just continuing on. This one's got a LS3 engine under the hood, 4-speed automatic transmission, Curry 9-inch rear end.
Let's bring the camera around to the windshield. I'd like to show you something very unique I have not seen before. When these trucks were new, curved glass was hard to form and expensive to do in the automotive industry. So this car would have had 2 flat panels of windshield glass. Now it has a curved glass to fit in the original frame and a one-piece windshield. Just one of those beautiful details that hides in plain sight.
And whereas we'll see many of the C10s, the K10s that'll get jacked up, generally with this generation of pickup truck, when it's customized, it tends to be lower.
$145,000. Lots of smiles up there in the luxury lounge. And why not? Cafe au lait is the color. Now, no, we can't get it in the building. No, we're not going to fire it up. This is a 1952 Beechcraft Model 18 airplane. It's sitting over at the Scottsdale Airport. That's where these pictures came from. And this is a very special movie prop, you might say.
Well, yeah, if you've recently seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari, remember where Matt Damon is playing Carroll Shelby, at a certain point as they're coming up to the debut of the 1965 Mustang, they're at an airport, and Carroll Shelby, being played by Matt Damon, said, well, let me take the wheel. This is the airplane that he flies everybody in and scares the living daylights out of people. And this is only one of the many movie roles it's had over the years. It's officially a Beechcraft Model 18. Sometimes they call it the Twin Beech, you know, twin engine, low wing. It's got that tail wheel in the back. And of course, it was made right there where our good friend Tyler Hoover hails from, in Wichita, Kansas. You know, they built this thing over a very long period of time. I think they started them in the late 30s, built them almost into 1970, which at the time was a record. I think they built it for like 30, 32 years. So for one particular type of plane, it had a long run, and they made 9,000 of them.
Other movies it's appeared in: Amelia Earhart, The Final Flight; Terminal Velocity with Charlie Sheen; Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey; episodes of House, Spy Kids, of course Ford versus Ferrari, and All the Pretty Horses. It's got the latest electronics, but a
very period look. Talk about the ultimate resto mod. I believe that's the consignor in the plaid shirt down there. And it looks like the internet is busy.
Well, they had more than 30 different versions of this plane that you could buy.
$230,000 takes it, and in certain aviation circles, that is going to be considered a bargain.
Ferrari 360 Modena was owned by the late Hollywood actor Paul Walker.
So, now here's another car with a Hollywood provenance. Lot 1326 is a 1999 Ferrari 360 Modena, once owned by Paul Walker of Fast and Furious fame.
This includes the license plate and copy of the title in Walker's name. It has just been tuned up, fresh oil change. The low coolant light is on. This one has the 6-speed gated manual shifter, and that's the one you want. The F1 paddle shifter transmission was available, but you want to save the manuals. Beautiful car this is. Has the Challenge grille in the back for extra engine cooling air exit. Just a beautiful car. And as opposed to the car that it succeeded, the F355, you can do the belt change and the major service on this without having to drop the whole engine assembly.
Of course, Modena, the name of the town where Ferrari hails from, up in northern Italy. And if you ever get a chance to go there, right across the street, they have the test track, Fiorello, which is where they would test all their Ferraris and all their Ferrari race cars for a long time. And I mentioned a little bit earlier about how they took the front vents and widened them out to make it look like these shark nose. And this is what they started with in previous versions.
Another advance over the 355 that preceded this is that car was suitable pretty much for drivers 6 feet and under. This cabin accommodates a much taller driver.
I mentioned Fiorano, you know, one of the great things. Every now and then in the work of this business, you can do something cool. I got to do laps at Fiorano once.
$130,000 takes that Ferrari 360 away. And now here comes the first of a long selection of cars from the Frank Teagues collection. Some super muscle cars. This, a 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda.
Here's another one right here. He bought a run of the cars coming up here. He bought the best cars at Barrett-Jackson.
And we had a half a dozen or so of Teagues cars here yesterday, and they were all looked better than new, as does this one. Plymouth Cuda from 1970 with the $1,000 option Hemi and a 4-speed transmission, restored to as new.
First year for the E-Body. You know, Cuda was a little bit late, and Chrysler was a little bit late in coming into the serious pony car worlds. I mean, yeah, they'd had the Barracuda for a number of years before this. Well, they didn't really launch into an all-out assault on performance until 1970. And unfortunately, 1970 was essentially the beginning of the end for that performance era, the high watermark for all the manufacturers. But they came to the table late, but they came in a big way, and everybody got the attention here. And by the way, when I talk about Barracuda and Cuda, you can buy a Barracuda or you can buy a Cuda. You see the back nameplate. This is exactly what it actually was officially called by Plymouth, the Cuda. And earlier in the week, we were talking about the corporate cousins, how this is very similar to a Challenger. Underneath, it shares an awful lot of parts. Body-wise, not so much. Shares the windshield, some of the side glass, but not much more beyond that. Although interior-wise, if you got the Rally Dash, whether it was a 1970 Plymouth Cuda or a 1970 Dodge Challenger, that Rally Dash was essentially the same.
Correct Goodyear Polyglass tires in F60 15s. 60 was the aspect ratio of the sidewall to the tread width, and they used a letter designation before adopting today's metric nomenclature.
sold for $180,000 to that discriminating collector and his family. More to come from the Franktiques collection, but right now we're going to go to break with a look out at the Meguiar's staging lanes. As you can see, the party going on beyond. More dream rides lining up for their turn on the Barrett-Jackson block. Stay with us. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Under the big top, dramatic TV lighting. There is a car Tyler showed us earlier, a 68 Shelby GT500 KR for King of the Road. Currently at $150,000 bid, and that's where the hammer drops. Congratulations to the new owner. And there are nothing but new owners here because this Barrett-Jackson is the largest privately consigned, no reserve auction in history. No reserve means no minimum bid that must be met before the consignor will release the car. They pay a little extra when they consign for that privilege, but there are no reserve bids here. When the hammer drops, the high bid gets the car. Deal done. Here's lot 1328.1, a 1970 Olds 442 W30 known as Demolition Man.
Yeah, we're seeing some movie stars rolling across the block, or at least being sold here. Earlier, we saw that airplane from Ford versus Ferrari. This is an old 442, a W30, a very important car in its own right, but this was used in the movie Demolition Man. Now, you might remember the scene where Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock, they come up, they blast through the floor of a futuristic Oldsmobile dealership, and then they go out and have a big old chase. This is the car that was actually used during the filming of that movie. So this was the one, and I always joke, you know, it's funny when you look at that because they blast through the floor of a futuristic Oldsmobile dealership. Well, they got one thing really wrong. There were no futuristic Olds dealerships because Oldsmobile has gone away.
I'll never forget the scene in the Blues Brothers where they're crashing through the shopping mall, and I think John Belushi says to Dan Aykroyd, "Hey, look, the new Oldsmobiles are here."
Yeah, that's the problem with trying to predict the future. It just never quite goes the way you expect. I go back to this is a pretty cool Oldsmobile in its own right. You know, a W30, it's a 442, 1970 high water mark, and it's got that movie provenance. And once again, that's a really great scene. If you haven't seen that movie, when Sandra Bullock and Wesley Snipes just crash through the floor going up, it's awesome.
W30 is to Oldsmobile much as Z28 is to Chevrolet. It was an option code, otherwise kind of undescribed, maybe to slide it past the GM executive brass, and it was the top of the line for the 442 performance package.
$122,000 for that beautiful red 442 W30. Now here's April Rose once again.
Hey, Bob, in the staging lanes with John D'Agostino's 1958 Packard, but more importantly, Adam Ferrara from Top Gear. You've seen him all over your television set. Longtime friend of Barrett-Jackson. Adam, I could totally see you sporting this ride.
I like your vision. This is just beautiful. First of all, the paint job, Lavender Pearl, which is my dancing name. They French the lights. It's got a 289 in it. There's a 5-inch chop on it. Look at the interior, it's beautiful. They got suicide doors, and the interior is just gorgeous. A mother of pearl on the steering wheel. Look at the floor mats.
That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, this almost looks like a bowling ball here. Everything has been customized just perfect. I love these two-tone seats. And Adam, what do you think about this lamb's wool interior carpet down here? That's an extra touch.
That's lamb's wool. Do you know how many bald lambs are out there right now? You have to bid on this car. It's beautiful. You know what the name of the car is?
What?
Rita. Rita Hayworth. This is the Rita Hayworth.
That's beautiful.
Yes, I should do the hair flip.
I like it better on you. This is an absolutely epic ride. Now we're in the pre-staging lanes. Of course, you never know who you're going to run into out here, Adam. Great seeing you. Where else can we see you?
Follow me on social media. April can't follow me because of the leg.
Right, I did tear my ACL, but it's great because we have all these cars out here, so I can go for a ride anytime I need. Bob?
That's April playing hurt.
A snowboarder kneecapped her, Bob.
Yeah, I know. Her first time skiing. What are you going to do? 1970 Chevelle SS LS6. Take it away.
454 M22 Rock Crusher Muncie transmission, 331 Positraction axle, cranberry over medium red vinyl. Another Frank Teagues, all original restored muscle car.
Yeah, LS6. This is the top of the food chain in 1970. This cranberry red, the color everybody loves. What it doesn't say on the car card is whether this is the original engine that this car would have been born with. So you have to assume it's not. But that's probably the only thing that held the value back.
$130,000 takes it. More smiles down there. Expect a party to break out because we got a party going here on the block. Welcome back. Under the main tent, housing the Showcase Pavilion. All these fabulous cars, many of them with sold stickers on them now. There will be more and more as the day goes on. They go back into the pavilion from which their new owners can collect them, ship them home, drive them home, do whatever they want. It's their car. Now on the block, lot 1330 is a 1970 Mustang Boss 429.
In its original grabber green, only 43 of the Boss 9s left the factory in grabber green. Scoop, spoilers, slats, and that dry deck semi-Hemi 429 engine built for NASCAR homologation.
Yeah, take it off the Ford assembly line, taken over to Carcraft where they did all the final work on this.
$260,000 for that beauty. Another from the Frank Teagues collection. And there are more and more as we go along here. More than 24 cars from that collection were consigned here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Now here comes something rather special. Lot 1330.1 is a 1969 Camaro Yenko Copo.
So that means it was specially ordered by Don Yenko, a longtime Corvette racer, then Corvair modifier, the Yenko Stinger, and then he turned his attention to Camaros and Chevelles that would sell in higher volume. This has all the authentication of its original build. Yenko's mechanic rescued the paperwork from the trash, and it continues with this car to this day. Highly documented, highly modified by a very respected Chevrolet racer and dealer.
Yeah, and the thing to remember is that Don Yenko was a racer first, you know. He loved to race. That's how he got into building the specials, the Yenko Stinger, which was a Corvair, some of the other cars he got into. Then it became, okay, how can we race and have fun and make more money at the dealership? And that's where the central office production orders came about. Unfortunately, he died in a plane crash in 1987, not able to continue on with the legacy, but the Yenko name, when you see it on any vehicle, if it's there and it's original, it brings value.
So the reason this car had to be copoed was your local Chevrolet dealer could not order a Camaro with a 427 cubic inch, 425 horse engine, and that's what this was. It also included the Yenko sports car conversion with a 140-mile-an-hour speedometer, a larger front sway bar, and 15x7 rally wheels.
Well, we're in good territory now. $300,000 the current bid.
That'll be third highest of the day and fourth of the auction, and it sells at 300 large.
Did you know that Dale Earnhardt's dream was to become the Don Yenko of this century for Chevrolet? And in late 2000 launched a series of Intimidator Camaros that would begin the culmination of that dream.
So many of those what-ifs had Dale Earnhardt Sr. survived that crash back in 2001. He once told me at the NASCAR banquet that he wanted to go race the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Well, that's a story for another day. Here's a 71 Hemi Cuda from the Teagues collection.
Well, the 71 Cudas are way rarer than the 70s. I think only 107 coupes like this one were built and 7 convertibles. That was it.
And adding to the value is down the side. Yeah, that Hemi engine's really important, but this billboard right here, this was really difficult to put on at the factory. After a while, they said, we're just not going to do it anymore. So if you've got an original billboard car, that adds to the value as well.
Highly optioned cars, super trackback, light group, rally gauge cluster, that white interior console, torque flight automatic transmission. And the color, don't call it plum crazy, Dodge did that, call it inviolate.
Look at this number, $445,000, $450,000. You're looking at the new top seller. Who'll be the last man standing, or woman? This is ideal. Competing bidders.
One of 107. How few are left and how few in this condition? $500,000 bid.
And who was that bidder at the upper right? That was one Greg Jackson, who is now out of the competition.
I thought we were at the end at $500,000. We're not done.
Now there's still a couple of bidders who really want it. The applause tells you everything you need to know. $525,000 for that fabulous 71 Hemi Cuda from the Frank Teagues collection. Wow, inviolate. Love it. Coming up later on, how about a 2019 Porsche 911 Speedster? We've seen this car before this weekend. 502 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Very cool profile. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson. This is what the property looks like when the skies are partly cloudy, but today they have been crystal clear. The kind of blue that you'll only find in the American Southwest. It's been a spectacular week here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Today is the final day of our broadcast, though the auction goes through another day tomorrow. Last 3 cars across the block, and look at those numbers. The Hemi Cuda, $525,000. Plymouth Superbird, one of our fantasy bid cars, $257,000, and a Mustang Boss, $429,000, up in the $300,000 zone. And we're almost there now with this Shelby GT500. We're at $285,000, and the bidding is still open.
The entire Frank Teagues collection of beautifully preserved and restored muscle cars have just brought tons of bidders to the auction block, and they keep raising their hand.
$285,000 for that Shelby GT500. Beautiful shade of green. Way it goes, up comes lot 1332.2. 69 Camaro ZL1.
Well, when you look at what brings value to a car, you look at multiple factors. You know, you look at the looks of the car, you look at the performance of the car, the desirability, and then you look at the rarity. And I got news for you. This 1969 Camaro ZL1 has all of that. It's got the performance, it's got the looks, and it's one of only 69 ZL1s produced back in 1969.
So this car is accompanied by quite a lot of provenance. We have the original invoice, the manufacturer's statement, the shipping order, and at Fred Gibbs Chevrolet, there in the Harp, Illinois, they were one of the primary dealers of these very limited cars. There's a letter from Fred Gibbs about this car and this VIN number verifying the car and its options as it originally came. Now this provenance, well, this is worth $270,000 because you want to see this to support the value of this car today and in the future.
Yeah, we always say hang on to the paperwork, or if it's not in the car, put it in the trunk as the case may be. In this case, the paperwork is so critical. And this one is a special one, the ZL1, that aluminum head engine. You know, this is a unique vehicle made during a unique time. Plenty of Z28s that came out of the Chevrolet world, but once again, only 69 ZL1s. Closing in on $400,000 now.
Near the peak of the muscle car era, an extremely rare special order machine in exceptional restored condition. That rings the bell.
$450,000 makes it the #2 sale of the day and the auction. Another winner from the Frank Teagues connection. Here's Tyler.
Well, the parade of winged warriors continues here in the staging lanes, and this 1970 Superbird is very special. Of course, they all have this big wing, and I'm not sure. April said 3 Mike Joys could sit on top. Maybe. I'd love to see Mike try, but of course they are reinforced all the way to the frame. What makes this one exceptional is, other than the respray of the Alpine white, it is all original. So this is the original vinyl black top, and you go inside, and it's showing a little bit of wear, but it is the original interior. And all the Hemi Superbirds selling today, this is the only one with a 4-speed manual. The rest of them are all automatics, which I think gives this one an extra little kick. And under the hood, of course, is that legendary 426 Hemi, one of 135. And this one is numbers matching, which is a very big deal. These 426 Hemis, they were raced and they weren't known for being too durable, so most of them were not original.
When did this become Pick on Mike Joy weekend? I don't know. Well, anyway, we've got another break coming up, but plenty more coming down the pike from the Frank Teagues collection and more. Stay with us here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Back in the Showcase Pavilion at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Cars are lined up. As you see, many have sold stickers on them. We go farther and farther into our Super Saturday coverage. We are now halfway through the Fantasy Bid Show brought to you by Dodge. 6 of the 12 cars have now been tallied. Winner at this point, or leader, I should say. You haven't won anything yet, Johnny, but you're the leader on 1,560 over Jaron. Kate hanging in there for the distaff side. Congratulations to all on your perspicacity. 6 more vehicles to go before we declare a winner here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Here's what the last 3 cars across the block did, including a 69 Camaro ZL1 that made $450,000. Right now, we've got a 65 Shelby Cobra 427 CSX 3096.
Well, this is a continuation car, not one of the original run from 1965 to 67. Carroll Shelby one day opened his desk and say, hey, I got a whole bunch of serial number plates here. Let's build some cars to put them on. And the continuation car was born. This is pretty faithful to the original 427 CSX.
Well, and while it might not be as original and valuable as the first run of the Cobras, look at the price. We're closing in on $400,000. We see no shortage of replicas rolling across the block. But short of the $200,000 one we saw earlier this week that set that speed record, 232 miles an hour, this kind of money for this kind of car is only because it's built by Shelby. Well, it says it's a 427. It's actually got a 468 cubic inch stroker engine, but once again, built by Carroll Shelby.
And $370,000 sends it to its new home. And rolling in behind is lot 1335, a 1964 Corvette 327 365 big tank coupe.
It's Roy Seiner.
This car is one of those 38. This car is a 327 365 horse air, which was the rarest engine option in '65. This car, there are less than a handful of these cars built. This car is an unrestored original car. It was in Corvette Sensuous American in 1984, 26-page article. Gets no better.
So why are these tankers or big tank Corvettes so rare? For endurance racing in the era before fuel cells came into use, you had to use a factory gas tank. Now, it'd be okay if it was a factory optional gas tank. So in '64, Chevrolet built 38 Corvettes with the big tanks. Most of them were ordered to go racing. Others were ordered by people at their local Chevy dealer just because they wanted to do long distance touring without stopping so often. But these cars are rare. There is competition history with many of them, so they're highly prized.
Yeah, and once again, it was just an option you could get from your dealership. Now, in the earlier years of Corvette, the big tank was a 24-gallon tank. When it went into the early 60s, they bumped that up to the 36-gallon tank. Because the idea being, for most people, once again, it was all about racing. How far could you go between pit stops?
The big tank was option N03 on your order form.
Second year for this Corvette body. The split window was gone, but when you talk about rarity, it's got exactly an intriguing collection of options. You know, you heard Roy Seiner talking about the engine and how few of these 327 cubic inch, 365 horsepowers were built.
Well, this one may have been headed for the racetrack. It has sintered metallic brake linings, drum brakes, remember, on the 64.
$195,000 takes it away, that beautiful color. Now it's not the only one, because here comes the one that April Rose showed us earlier. Lot 1336 is a 66 427 390 big tank.
Well, this one perhaps needs the big tank for the road because it's powered by a 427 390 horse engine and 4-speed. Now, this is a 1966, 2 years later, and 66 tankers were built. Milano maroon over saddle tan is this one.
And it was just a couple years later that they would eliminate this as an option. You weren't even able to order the big tank from the factory, and they simply decided they didn't need to. If you were racing it, you didn't need to order it.
This car doesn't have original drivetrain, restored by the best to be the best. Original wheels, factory side exhaust car, you can't beat it.
Yeah, even to the point, if you look in the very back here underneath the glass, you can see that they've got the original instructions, the stickers for, you know, how to jack up the car, and it says how it's equipped with a limited slip differential, some warnings about how to change the tire. So it's got those original stickers attached to this as well.
This car is a winner of the Zora Arkus Duntov Mark of Excellence Award from the National Corvette Restorers Society.
So back to the point I was making, why they dropped this as an option. They just discovered if racers were going to go racing, they didn't need a factory option to make a bigger tank. They were just going to put in their own. And besides, they needed fuel cells at a certain point in time to make it even safer. So there was no need for a factory big tank. And you realize how dangerous a factory big tank was. You know, back in those days, fires were not uncommon on a racetrack when there was an accident.
$195,000. But that wasn't the last of the tankers, because coming in behind is lot 1337, a 67 Corvette. This one a 327 350.
And here's Roy.
There is not another 67 big tank car in existence. The second car is documented to have been destroyed. one of two to start with. You're looking at one of one today. And it's perfectly restored, has every award that you can get. 350 horse, air conditioned, great car.
So with air conditioning, this one likely was not headed for the racetrack, but maybe for long-distance touring. We don't know its full history, but we do know how it was born and with what options, because this car includes the original Corvette order, confirming all of the options matching to this vehicle identification number, including the N03 36.5 gallon tank. One of two ever built, the only one to survive.
And once again, desirability, rarity, all those things that you want in a car. It's a 1967, the last year, and boy, look at the number we're getting on this one.
This car is also a recipient of the Zora Arkus Duntov Award of Excellence for the National Corvette Restorers Society.
Yeah, and they also point out it's got the original Corvette order copy that confirms the factory options, most specifically that big tank.
You won't just be the only one in your block. You'll be the only one in the world with one of these 67 tankers.
We're closing in on the #1 sale of the day at this number.
One of one, the last one around. Help yourself, Scottsdale. Make some noise.
I think that bidder will go there if he has to. He looks committed. Didn't have to. $500,000 takes it.
Here's lot number 1337.1, the 1967 Ford Mustang Eleanor.
Have a break coming up, but coming up will be another very special Corvette. 327 360 Z06 split window coupe, 4-speed manual, posi traction, all sorts of goodies. Stay with us. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. There, center stage on the auction block is a 69 Ford Bronco custom SUV, and we're at $200,000 and counting.
Boy, it doesn't take long to get there on Saturday, does it? You know, earlier in the week, slowly but surely they would rock up there. Now we got Craig talking about this car.
Right here, you get a wonderful Bronco, very custom, 4-door, hand-built.
510. I'm going to get down 210.
Yeah, these days, not only can you buy a recreation body from a first-generation Bronco, but you can buy a brand-new 4-door, a car that was not built back during the first generation, a custom body that you could put on these. So it really goes back to now, okay, not only do you have the custom aspect, but you've lengthened it. You can have more fun with it. By the way, the nickname for this one is Anaconda, full rotisserie restored, fully handcrafted, all metal body. And once again, you can buy the parts or you can rework the parts. Although, to be honest with you, even if you're buying some of these parts, there's some work that has to go into it. It's got a Roush sticker on the back, so it's got a Roush motor underneath.
And it will soon have a sold sticker with $220,000 written on it. Congratulations, sir. And here comes another of our fantasy bid cars. This will be the 7th, I believe. Lot 13. Oh, excuse me. This is 1538. This is John D'Agostino's 58 Packard Custom Sportster known as Rita. We saw this outside with April.
What a beautiful lead sled. I could see this on the cover of CarCraft in about 1959 or 60 or somewhere in that era. Suicide doors, the hood comes up, all that gleaming chrome under hood and all around. What a beautiful timepiece this is.
Yeah, take a look at the manifold in the engine block. It's painted essentially the same color as the exterior. What a nice little fun thing they did. That Packard air cleaner right there. Boy, and I love the fact that they haven't just stuck a massive crate engine in there.
Where it was on show. You know, the work, the metal work, the creativity, the hours that went into this. This is an iconic car right here, under the money.
I'm ready to
57 Chevy dashboard. The trunk is fully finished in kind of in lamb's wool and diamond stitch tufted. Oh my gosh. In fact, every panel on this car has been stretched or modified, and then this gleaming amethyst or purplish pearl paint with ghost pinstripes and a speedster style windshield. This all shaved of handles and ornamentation. This is unbelievable.
Lavender pearl is the name of the color, and I love the subtleties they've got. This little chrome section right here, a little bit of pinstriping in the back, some very small things that make this add up to be even more. And you know, you gotta think, you know, this is a Packard from the waning days of Packard. It was on its last breath when, you know, 1958 rolled around. To imagine that it would have looked this spectacular this many decades later is pretty amazing.
Maybe if Packard had built this, they'd still be in business.
But I love this fact that this is really an old school build, and in many ways it's designed to look like it would have done when it was in 1960 or in the late 50s when they were doing that, you know, nip and tuck, diamond tucked interior, that nailhead grille, all kinds of fun touches.
I saw a 57 Chevrolet Dash repurposed and what kind of looks like a 57 Chevy rear bumper, but so much to look at and enjoy here.
That bidder assistant worked so hard, but they didn't get it. $155,000 takes it to its new owner, and we're going to hear from April.
I found a car Led Zeppelin would actually love. Now, the name is Cashmere, which is the color, which is also borrowed from Bentley. It's a 1957 Continental Mark II. Now, pretty much the only thing that's stock is this grille. Everything else has been reworked. The bumpers have been tucked, headlights recessed in. Really, really, look at that color in the Arizona sun. It is just gleaming. Custom side mirrors, and check out these door handles recessed in. I mean, how long does something like this take? The attention to detail is spectacular. You got one-off billet wheels here, and of course the faux tire in the back, and the exhaust comes right out of the bumper. Now, this one's power comes from a Ford 5.0 Coyote with EFI paired with a 4-speed automatic transmission. And now the frame, it's been updated by being boxed in to make it stronger. I want you to take a look inside because it is so, so neat. Really beautiful two-tone leather with a turned metal dash. And check out that custom wheel. Just so many decisions go in to a custom build like this. I mean, it boggles my mind how you finally come up with this beautiful product, this beautiful car like this. And man, I would love to drive this across the block right now, Bob.
Yeah, you'd look good in that, April. I look forward to it. And right now on stage is lot 1338.1, a 58 Corvette custom convertible, and we're at $400,000. And that's where it sells. A lot of celebrating up there in the skyboxes. Okay, now we're going to begin a very special collection of cars here at Barrett-Jackson, the Don Williams collection, beginning with a 1940 LaSalle 52 Special Convertible.
Well, General Motors introduced the LaSalle as kind of a less expensive version of Cadillac. And the brand was around for a few years, had a very distinctive look with that vertical grille. And I don't think I've ever seen one restored to this level. There's a Pennsylvania inspection sticker here from July 10th of 1940.
And in this era of LaSalle, they were looking more and more Cadillac. At the beginning, they tried to differentiate themselves between Cadillac and LaSalle. And as you mentioned, Mike, the fact that LaSalle was the entry-level Cadillac. But at this point in time, they were taking the attitude, you know what, if we're going to charge more, we've got to look a little better. That's exactly what they were doing.
lot of his cars coming up pretty soon, and I'll tell you something, anything Don owned was spectacular. We're honored to have his family here, and they're going to be witness to the last few cars of Don's collection. This is going to be an honor. You can't imagine the quality of these cars coming up, but this car came from the Don Williams collection. It's way under the money. We should be looking at twice what we're bidding on it right now. Please pay attention, folks.
$295.
Craig Jackson has just presented bidder pass number 1 to Don Williams' wife, Janet. Don wore that proudly here at every Barrett Jackson auction. And it was hard for him to escape attention because every time he'd walk by, people would do a head swivel. Nobody else has ever had bidder pass number 1, and now it stays in the Williams family.
That LaSalle sells for $92,000 to a man whose shirt pretty much matches it, I think.
Greg, you want to talk about this beautiful car?
Now here come the real heavy hitters, beginning with a 1940 Cadillac Series 75 Town Car.
So this is the start of the collection of Don Williams. I did a lot of pieces on these cars. Don was, we're going to do a little piece later as the 540K rolls up, but he had impeccable taste. He bought the best, as he said a lot of times when I'd come up here, he goes, I'm buying the restoration, because he goes, I know what it takes restoring these cars. When you look at the cars Don has, they're perfect. They come out of the Don Williams collection that sat at the Black Hawk Museum. Buy with confidence. He had great taste, best cars. It's got to have a new owner.
And you can hear Craig's voice break because Don Williams was such a mentor to Craig Jackson and such an important part of this auction and this auction company.
And once again, Don Williams knew his stuff, knew his cars. When it comes out of his collection, it's like having a guarantee that it is right. You know, back in 1940, you could get a base Cadillac. It would cost you about $2,100 or so. You want one of these things, these Series 75 Town Cars, it was over $5,000, more than double what you were going to pay for a Cadillac if you were just getting the entry-level model, which was still a pretty nice car.
And that was pretty close to CEO salary money in those days. This car is just incredibly gorgeous. This soft blue color, the paint is flawless. The dual side mounts. That is not wood on the dash, that is steel, but it is done as a faux wood burl. Incredible.
Only 3 years did they make this body style in this car. Just one of 53 produced in 1950. Help yourself on one of the beautiful Don Williams collection here.
Once again, pre-war styling, they moved these things to be a little bit closer. Last year for this big V grille, they were going to a much flatter look in 1941. Then was going to continue into the post-war years for just a little bit. But last year for this really sharp-looking grille up front.
Only 53 of these were built, and this one was built for Harris Lasky, and his initials, HL, are on the rear side doors here. So this is a car that he did not drive, but was driven in.
We've talked a little bit about how the Cadillac crest has changed over time. The current version of the Cadillac crest doesn't show any of the merlettes, the birds that we see here. Now it's just bars of color and it's wider.
And the hammer falls at $147,000 for that Cadillac Series 75 Town Car. Now here comes a 1920 Packard Twin 6 transformable town car.
Well, Henry Joy, a distant relative, was kind of busy in 1920. He was the president of the Packard Motor Car Company, and he was also the head of the Lincoln Highway Association, charged with Carl Fisher and his partners with building America's first cross-country highway, the Lincoln Highway, that began at Times Square in New York and ended in Lincoln Park above the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. All the U.S. automakers were involved in the creation of Lincoln Highway except one, Henry Ford. Ford believed that building highways should be infrastructure. It should be government work and not funded by automobile and tire companies. Well, the Lincoln Highway was first, and pretty soon the U.S. highway system was born.
Well, this Packard has a really interesting history. It was originally owned by a gentleman by the name of Atwater Kent. Atwater Kent made a fortune building radios. At one point, he was the largest radio producer in the world. He also did something really significant. He was the inventor of the coil that you use in automobiles to start them. So this was a car that, you know, a man who was one of the richest people in America, one of the biggest industrialists, building some modern technology of the day, chose to drive around in.
And why do we call the luggage compartment in back of our cars today a trunk? Because these steamer trunks mounted on racks are what they had back in the day. So we still use the term trunk.
$100,000 takes that Packard town car. Now here comes lot 1339.2, also a Packard, a 1933 Standard 8 Coupe Roadster.
Look at this beautiful radiator shell with what is described as the coffin top. That is a signature Packard item, as is the Goddess of Speed, disparagingly called the Donut Chaser by non-Packard fans. I can't imagine a more luxurious car in the 1930s than what we see right here.
And look at the lighting. I mean, you've got these big, massive headlights that are mounted off to the side, as they would be for quite some time. Then we've got driving lights down below. And if you come over here, you've got a spotlight that the driver can point to wherever he wants to go. It's just beautifully detailed on just about every level up front. And once again, this is from the Don Williams collection, a man who knew his cars, knew his Packards, knew his pre-war classics, and knew how to buy them right.
Now this car has leaf springs in the front end, something we'd never see today. One on each side, running longitudinally, and lever shocks.
320 horsepower. I think it's only got probably 320 cubic inches. I think it only has about 120 horsepower. And if you come over here, you'll see a little door. And this door right here is for a storage compartment. You can call it golf bag case if you want, but in reality you can stick whatever you want into there, because the problem here was you had no trunk.
Well, sure you do. You have it out here hanging off the rear bumper on this folding rack. The trunk has evolved from the leather-covered trunk that we saw earlier, but still, this one with its handles can be lifted up and removed and taken into the hotel by the porters. So today our cars have a trunk, unless you have a Porsche Boxster or similar, where you also have a frunk, or a trunk in the front. Yep, Porsche people call them frunks.
Well, and now with electric cars, you have even more frunkage. About a decade earlier, Packard had moved to the concept of planned obsolescence that we've known for so many years from GM. The idea being that let's come up with something different every year. And by 1933, it was a lot different than the 1923 that had come just a decade before.
Less than 4,000 miles on this beautiful restoration of a 120 horsepower 1933 Packard 8.
And it sells at $275,000. That's the last of the Don Williams cars we'll see for right now. More to come later. Right now, we're going to Tyler.
I'm with lot 1371.1, a 1937 Mercedes 540K Roadster, also from the Don Williams collection, coming soon. And with the Blueprint engine cam, let's take a look under the hood at this legendary engine, the 540K. It's beautiful and absolutely massive. 5.4 liter straight 8, and the K means compressor in German, or supercharged, and that's this right here. So the air intake comes down to the supercharger, feeds it right into the carburetor here, and that goes into the intake, and the exhaust is actually on top. Dual exhaust here coming down the side. So this is actually really hot coming out. total horsepower 180. Doesn't sound like that much, but the torque was over 300. So in 1937, this was capable of over 100 miles an hour, which is crazy. That'd be like 250 miles per hour today. And you can see it's this one-off gorgeous body. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, mostly in black when they were new, but I really like it here in red. 540K special touring car. Another break coming up, and we'll be back for more from Scottsdale. We are back inside the tented areas of the Barrett-Jackson auction in Scottsdale. The entire auction inventory is under tent. And meanwhile, on stage, we just saw a 1972 Chevy K5 Blazer Custom built for Captain Wild Bill of the TV show The Deadliest Catch sell for $300,000 to that masked man. Now rolling up a 63 Corvette Custom split window coupe.
Yeah, split windows, you know, you can debate about whether it's the best mid-year Corvette, but since it was only built for a single year where they have that split window down the back, it is essentially the rarest of the coupe bodies. You know, when you go all the way to the back and you see that Stinger line that goes all the way down, this is the one that Bill Mitchell loves so much and Zoroarkis Duntov did not like. And boy, there was a big battle that first year as to whether they were going to continue that. But because of the rarity for the longest time, we never saw people customizing these. Well, those days are gone. Taking a split window, putting in something special, it is becoming the norm.
Yes, absolutely. They're regularly selling for well over what a stock 63 split window, especially one without fuel injection, as you can see here, $410,000. And this one now, much more powerful engine, supercharged LT4 it looks like under the hood, and custom chassis. Beautiful.
Yeah, and solid money. I mean, we're up over $400,000. You know, once there was a time when you didn't customize anything and make more money. Now it happens all the time.
$435,000 takes it. That's a tough crowd up there on the block. They know what they want, they're going for it. Okay, coming up next, a 2012 Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG Coupe.
Well, I was taking a look at this one yesterday. I called it the second coming of the Gullwing, and there was actually one Mercedes Gullwing in between, but it never made production after the original 50s 300 SL. But these are amazing machines. You see that 6.2-liter V8 under the hood that they label as a 6.3 for the Classic Touch, 563 horsepower. And it's set very far back behind the front wheels. But like the original Gullwing on these, also the doors do go up. Let me show you here.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that when Mercedes initially designed those gull-wing doors, it really wasn't because they wanted to set some kind of style trend, which they ultimately did. It was because they wanted to keep things lighter, and it was easier and lighter to pin them at the top than it was to have the big latching mechanisms off to the side. Plus, remember, the original Gullwing was a race car. It's quicker and easier to get in that way. But now, well, we think of Gullwings as one of the ultimate styling touches. And I love the fact that they also went back to the original 300 style grille as well.
Oh yes, absolutely, but amazing technology underneath. Dual clutch mounted in the back, so performance unreal.
$210,000 sends it to that gentleman, or wherever he designates. He's now the most popular guy on his row. And that sale goes to Barrett-Jackson.com in the inventory column. Check it out. All your questions about Barrett-Jackson activities all over the collector car world are at Barrett-Jackson.com. Here's a 65 Chevy Corvette Custom.
Yeah, in this case, underneath that hood is an LS9 engine. You know, we see LS3s, everything in terms of the LS packages, and it just gets bigger and bigger and better and better. Look at the plenum, the way it's all designed, the supercharger up front. pumping out massive amounts of horsepower. It's built on an SR-111 tube chassis, not a box chassis, and of course those side pipes custom on the side. You know, this may look very much like an original 1965 Corvette, but boy, I guarantee you there isn't very much that's left of that original car.
Interesting touch that they painted the side pipes, or at least the covers for them, to match the car. And on that custom chassis, they bolted a lot of C6 Corvette components on it as well. Cool 66 big block hood as well.
$245,000 to the man in the colorful shirt. Now coming up is a 67 Chevy Corvette Custom convertible completed by Jeff Hayes Customs, 540 horsepower LS3 engine, automatic transmission, and more. Wait till you see it.
Derek, tell us about what this is all.
Welcome back. The view from the Muscle Lounge. Down onto the bitter floor and up ahead to the stage. Crowded with people now because there is a very special car on the block. It's a 1966 Superformance GT40 Mark II Ken Miles Special Edition.
And Aaron Shelby is up on the block talking about it right now.
Just people must understand that that car is P21. Oh shit, I've gone blank. P2115, which is the number that the original car raced with 1015. So this is really something special.
So that was a gentleman from Superformance. Superformance being a South African company that builds replicas of these. And this one is done to look just like the car that Ken Miles and Lloyd Ruby won the Daytona 24 Hours with to start that great year. And you'll notice this red portion right here and these red things right here. This is not about design. This is all about figuring out which car is going by you at the time. Because at the same time that this car was racing, Dan Gurney had his on the track, and those had blue, so they could tell the difference between them.
And it sells for $270,000. Of course, Ken Miles and Lloyd Ruby should have won the Le Mans 24 Hours that same year, which would have been historic. Now we're moving on to a 1958 Corvette Custom convertible. Another fantasy bid vehicle. What did you think this car would sell for?
Yeah, it's a beautiful custom with a modern LT1 engine under the hood, 460 horsepower, and sky blue riding on a custom chassis. Of course, in 1958, fuel ejection was available as an option. Since it has a fuel-injected V8, they added it on the fender as well to give it that perfect vintage touch. You can see a power ram closing the hood right now, so you can open and close it at the click of a button. Blue interior as well. Looking stock, but gives you more room to be able to sit down. If you're taller, trying to fit in a stock 58 Corvette, you probably hit the steering wheel and stick out looking like Big Bird. With these modern resto mods and customs, much easier to get in and out of and be comfortable.
According to the consignor, they've only put 150 miles on it since it was built. That's an important 150 miles. Got to make sure everything works right, doesn't leak, doesn't fall apart. $500,000. Wow.
That is very cool indeed. Congratulations to the new owner. That ties for second of the day and second of the auction. And both of those $500,000 cars are Corvettes. Here's a car we previewed earlier for you. 2019 Porsche 911 GT2 RS. And up on the block, Paul Tracy, IndyCar legend, who is on the Provenance.
If anybody knows Porsches, you know Porsche, they are the best handling car on the road.
There you have it from the man that knows, 225. That's a stout number for an incredible car. Let's get her gone.
Well, in fact, Paul Tracy lives here in the Valley of the Sun in North Scottsdale. He's been here for quite a while, and You know, he didn't race very many Porsches in his lifetime, but he spent most of his time in Indy cars and just most recently in that SRX series, having a lot of fun breaking things. This one, a 2019 911 GT2 RS.
And this may still be the fastest production Porsche ever. There's no GT2 RS in the current generation. Set the record on the Nürburgring. New MSRP with the Weissach package would have been around $350,000, which we're approaching right now.
Yeah, the question is, what car can you buy and then make money on? You know, we're at $350,000 right now, still moving.
Well, this is hard to get. Of course, you had to be someone special in the Porsche books to be able to order one and buy one. No backseat on these, a full roll bar. This is a race car for the street. PDK transmission.
Here in Maricopa County, and whoever buys this car, I'll give them a lesson how to drive the car around the racetrack.
Good, I'll bring my GT2 RS out too.
My time is a little bit less valuable than yours, but we'll see where we can get this thing to. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Well, that's not bad. Not only do you get a Porsche, but you get a lesson in how to drive it from an IndyCar champion. Boy, what a great opportunity to buy a special car and spend some time with a very famous race car driver in the Indy world.
Well, I know Craig likes to whip a lot of his cars around Apex. It pecks the track around here. It's probably where they've rubbed elbows before. Perfect car to go out and race on the track.
$375,000 takes it. It's a neat bit of provenance from the ownership chain, I must say. That gentleman's going to learn a whole lot if he goes out there with Paul Tracy as his instructor. Here's a car Tyler showed us earlier, 1970 Plymouth Hemi Superbird.
Yes, I was drooling over this thing earlier, and other than the repaint, it is very much a survivor with that numbers matching 426 Hemi, one of 135. The original vinyl top, original interior, the homologation special Winged Warrior.
Yeah, let's work our way around to the back. I mean, you got that big nose up front that's all about, you know, seeing how aerodynamic you can get, the big wing. And then when you look in the trunk, look at these special supports that are underneath the wing designed to give it more structure and more strength. And, you know, there was a talk that this was designed to meet certain specs so the trunk could open. It was just blind dumb luck. They just happened to have the right height.
Yes, it's the Roadrunner Superbird, as it says on the wing end plates. An outgrowth of the Roadrunner made to lure Richard Petty back to Plymouth, which it did. And these cars were very successful on the super speedways, much more so than they were in the showrooms. In some places, these were a tough sell.
So that's a wrap at our 4 hours of live coverage here on FYI. But if you're craving more from Super Saturday, there's still 6 hours to come on the History Channel. Stunning supercars, killer customs, breathtaking classics, you name it, we'll have it. So be sure to stay with us. For now, for Mike Joy, Rick DeBrule, Tyler Hoover, and April Rose, I'm Bob Varsha. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you over on the History Channel.